My name is Heather. I'm 41 years old. I work as a preschool teacher. I live with my husband, Jeff, and my daughter, Emma, in a suburb not far from downtown. I met Jeff at a mixer that I was dragged to by a junior colleague to fill the numbers. At that time, I was in my late 30s, completely out of place at a matchmaking party dominated by people in their 20s, but Jeff, who was in his early 30s, also seemed equally uncomfortable. A strange sense of camaraderie developed between us, and we started talking, hitting it off quite well. And about a month into seeing each other, Jeff confessed that he was actually divorced and had a 9-year-old daughter, Emma. Moreover, Jeff said, Emma is friendly and a good girl, so I'm sure you'll get along well. Don't worry, I'd like us to date with the intention of getting married. I was happy at the thought of having a daughter and gladly accepted. However, Jeff's daughter, Emma, was openly hostile towards me from the first time I met her, which was not what I had been led to expect. Who is this lady? Dad, you're dating her? That's so lame. Hey, Emma. That's rude. Sorry, she doesn't usually say stuff like this. Oh well, it's okay. I don't mind. I was surprised by Emma's words, but thought she was just nervous. After all, it's understandable that a third grader would resist a stranger suddenly entering her family. I decided to slowly get closer to Emma. But no matter how many times we met before the marriage, Emma's attitude didn't change. Sometime later, Emma, Dad is going to marry Heather, so she's going to be your stepmom now. I was introduced again, but Emma said, I can't believe this old hag is my new stepmom. I'll be laughed at school. Everyone else's mom is young, pretty, and fashionable. I started to think it might be better to call off the remarriage given Emma's state, but Jeff just said, well, once the three of us start living together, she'll gradually get used to it. I wonder if this is really okay. Filled with doubts, I still went through with the marriage to Jeff. 3 years have passed since then, and Emma has become a 6th grader, but she still treats me coldly. In fact, as she grew older and became more articulate, she started to be more verbally abusive. Emma, you really need to fix your attitude. At first, Jeff would get angry at Emma, but as her attitude remained unchanged, he seemed to get fed up and began to ignore it. Moreover, Jeff started to be harsher with me, saying, if you and Emma can't get along after all this time, maybe it's your fault? You're a preschool teacher, but can't handle one child? And look, we've been married for 3 years, and we still don't have our own children. Maybe I should have remarried someone younger like Emma said. What's that supposed to mean? You're blaming me for everything, including Emma's issues and the child matter? I'm trying my best here. Without defending me from Emma's attacks, Jeff began to treat me harshly as well, and I felt myself growing weaker. One day, a mom friend stopped me. I saw your husband, Jeff, in the car with Susan. I just wondered if you knew about it. Susan is the mother of Emma's classmate and, I've heard, a single mom. Why would he be with someone like her? I was a bit suspicious, but I brushed it off to prevent any strange rumors. Susan mentioned she wanted to move soon, so I told her my husband works in real estate and could help. The mom friend seemed convinced and left, but my suspicions about Jeff remained. Something definitely feels off. It might be worth looking into. I decided to hire a private investigator to look into Jeff and Susan. 2 months later, Jeff and Emma went out, leaving me alone at home. Suddenly, I heard the front door being roughly opened and, frozen in shock, saw Jeff, Emma, and, surprisingly, Susan barging into the living room. Hey, a new mom is going to live here, so pack up all your stuff, clean up the house, and leave. What? Emma started spouting nonsense as soon as she walked in, leaving me bewildered. Hey Emma, you can't just spring this on her, she won't understand. Heather, sorry, but we're getting a divorce. Please leave this house. Yeah, there's no place for an old hag here anymore. Jeff and Emma were smirking at me, enjoying themselves. Meanwhile, Susan stood beside them, chin up, looking triumphant. Hello Heather, sorry for all this suddenness. But Emma is happy she's getting a younger, prettier mom. So, could you just quietly get the divorce? A happy family is the best, after all. You're just not fit for it. I had never really spoken to Susan, even at PTA meetings, but now she was blabbing proudly. Please pack your things and leave today. Look, I know this is shocking, but don't just stand there. Don't you have anything to say? I was speechless in front of the three of them barging in and saying whatever they wanted. However, as I had been wanting to divorce Jeff and Emma due to their unreasonable behavior, I saw this as a good opportunity and decided to go with it. All right. My response, like a child being given a chore, surprised them. Hey, are you really understanding this? You're getting a divorce and leaving this house? Yes, I understand. But just to confirm, I can pack up all my stuff, right? That's what we're saying. Forgot already, old lady? If Emma had been my real child, I would have scolded her harshly, but after all, she was nothing more than a stranger to me. I ignored the noise. Well, we're going to a spa resort for the night, so make sure you deal with your stuff and leave before we get back. See you. And with that, they left, laughing as if they had resolved some annoying issue. I found it odd that Susan, who also had a child in Emma's class, would leave her own kid behind, but I didn't have time to ponder. All right, not much time until tomorrow, gotta get moving. Left alone in the living room, I hurried to start packing. I wonder if they realize what they said about packing all my stuff. Actually, all the furniture and appliances in the house were bought by me. These were items I had purchased in preparation for our marriage, paid for in full. Because I had substantial savings from being single until I was 38. However, Jeff's payments for his half had become increasingly lax and eventually forgotten. Thus, I decided these were my personal belongings and had no hesitation in calling a junk removal service to take them away. TV, washing machine, fridge, and even the dresser, I emptied everything and disposed of them. Ah, what a different kind of exhaustion from playing with the kids all day. After completing this heavy work in one day, I decided to treat myself by staying at a luxury hotel near the station for a while. The next afternoon, relaxing in the hotel room, I received a call from Jeff. Hello? Answering the phone reluctantly, Jeff was almost shouting. Hey! The house is practically empty. And you just left the fridge empty and standing there. What were you thinking? What was I thinking? Well, all that stuff was bought by me. Forgot? You ended up not paying a dime. Oh, yeah, that was the case, but this is too much. Is bringing home a mistress and demanding a divorce any less excessive? Ugh, damn it. I wanted to hand him the divorce papers as soon as possible. When should I bring over the divorce papers? I was about to say, but Jeff, as if remembering something urgently, suddenly asked in a hurry. Wait, what about that? What? What do you mean by what? The dresser. The one with all the drawers. Where did you put that? I put it with the rest of the stuff, for the junk removal people to take away. Are you kidding me? I instinctively pulled the phone away from my ear. Jeff was yelling so loudly. Why are you so mad? I bought that dresser. Did you like it that much? He was so fixated on the dresser that I asked why he was so desperate. I had savings hidden in there. I was shocked by his answer, reminiscent of something from a bygone era. In the back of a drawer, there was money in an envelope. How did you not notice? Well, it was hidden, so it's not like I could have known. Sorry. I didn't think I was at fault, but I apologized anyway. That only made Jeff angrier. Which collection service did you use? Tell me. After I told him the company's name, Jeff hung up immediately. Probably he rushed to recover the money. Ah, I forgot to bring up the divorce papers. I realized after he hung up, but figured he'd contact me soon enough, so I waited. As expected, Jeff called me the next day. Come to the house right now. I had wanted to sign the divorce papers and return the house keys anyway, so I took everything necessary and headed to the house. As I entered the living room, the three of them were waiting, looking furious. "Hey, why did you throw everything away? There's no washing machine, no fridge, no microwave. We can't live here for a while." Emma was yapping at me as soon as we met. "Didn't Dad tell you anything? I bought all of that." "Emma, you said so yourself. Clean out all your stuff." Emma looked frustrated, and Susan jumped to her defense. "Hey! That's so immature, fighting with a child. That's why she doesn't like you. This child has been calling me an old hag since we first met. My attitude is irrelevant. Besides, once we decided to divorce, we're practically strangers. This wicked woman. Anyway, give back the money." "Money? Oh, you couldn't recover it?" Jeff apparently rushed to the junk collection site after our call but couldn't find the dresser among the massive piles of trash. "So, I want the $10,000 back, right here, right now." Losing $10,000 did sting, but I refused Jeff's demand. "No." "What do you mean no? You threw away my money. You have to pay me back." "It's not just no, it's more like I don't need to pay you back." "How can you think like that?" Jeff looked puzzled at my confident reply. I pulled out a document from my bag and thrust it at him. "I'm demanding alimony from you for the adultery and the verbal abuse that caused me mental distress." I had a lawyer draw up the documents right after I got to the hotel, paying a rush fee. The alimony amount was well over the $10,000 Jeff had hidden in the dresser. "I'll deduct the $10,000 from the amount written here. So, I don't need to pay you. But you'll need to pay the rest of the amount." Jeff stared at the alimony pledge, and after understanding what it stated, he glared at me. "What a greedy woman. No wonder you were single till now. Say whatever you want. It doesn't affect me." Ignoring Jeff's words, I pulled out another document from my bag and handed it to Susan. "This is the compensation for emotional distress for you." "What?" She was apparently not expecting to be charged after having an affair. She snatched the documents from my hand. Wait, this is too much. I'm a single mother." As Susan cried out, Jeff, after reading her part of the settlement, glared at me as if he were looking at a demon. "Hey, do you not have a heart? Charging this amount to someone raising a child alone is too much." The worst. You really are a wicked witch." Jeff and Emma both attacked me at the same time. But they didn't know the truth. I slowly approached Susan and said, "Susan, you haven't told these two the real story, have you?" "Yikes!" Susan let out a squeak as if my face, called a wicked witch by Emma, truly terrified her. "What are you talking about? Don't threaten Susan." "Oh, sorry. But I thought it was known. Susan hasn't divorced her husband yet." "What? Wait a minute." Next to a panicking Susan, Jeff and Emma froze. "That's a lie, right? You said you were already divorced." "Ah, well, that's... You're technically just separated. Isn't your child with your husband right now?" "Why do you know that?" "Is it true?" Yes, it's true." Unable to lie any longer, Susan quickly admitted. "That's why that kid hasn't been coming to school lately." Emma muttered, seeming to understand. "So what? We're about to get divorced anyway, just need to sign the papers." "There's no problem." Yeah, that's right. You're just trying to stress us out, it's pitiful." I couldn't bear to look at the two so sure of their victory and shook my head. "Unfortunately, there's a big problem. I've informed Susan's husband about your affair. Your wife is having an affair with my husband, so I demand compensation," I told him. "What?" Susan's husband was furious, of course, at both of you. He said he's going to demand compensation from you too. "What? You've caused so much trouble. Compensation for me too." Their expressions were a mix of anger and panic. "So, I've handed over the evidence of the affair to your husband as well. Jeff and Susan turned pale. Emma looked worriedly back and forth between the two. You two are going to have a hard time bearing the burden of two compensations.
You evil witch! Hey, Jeff, what are we going to do? I can't pay such a large sum.
Calm down, Susan. There must be some way. Does that mean I can't get new clothes? Can't go on vacation anymore? Emma complained about the potential hardship.
Shut up. That's the least of our worries right now.
Ignoring the panicked duo, I sighed. Sigh. Well, you have no choice but to work honestly and pay it off. We both have 12-year-old kids to support. With school and other expenses coming up, even if we earn money, it'll just disappear into these payments. That's your problem, not mine. It's what you deserve. What are we going to do? I only work part-time. And this is all because you boldly told her to get a divorce.
What? You're blaming me now? You were the one keeping quiet about still being married. If that hadn't happened, neither of us would be getting demanded for money by your husband. I thought it wasn't necessary to mention.
Their argument escalated into a loud quarrel, the screeching so intense that the walls of the house seemed to vibrate. Emma watched the two, looking like she was about to burst into tears at any moment. Desperate to end this hellish scene as quickly as possible, I clapped my hands to draw their attention. So, I need to revise the settlement amount for Jeff, so the lawyer will contact you again. I'll also send the divorce papers then. I expect both of you to sign quickly and send them back, Susan included. I grabbed my bag and headed for the entrance. As I attempted to leave, all three of them hurled insults at me.
You wicked woman! Old maid! Mean old witch!
I couldn't help but laugh out loud at their pitiful insults. Angered further by my laughter, they continued to berate me until the moment I closed the door. After returning to my parents' house, I quickly revised the documents and had them delivered to both through my lawyer. According to the lawyer, they were reluctant until the very end, but he eventually obtained their signatures. I was filled with gratitude for the lawyer handling the situation, as I had feared they might not sign. Since Jeff's part of the divorce papers was also included, I checked that his section was filled out and immediately submitted them to the city hall. Thus, Jeff and I officially ended our marriage of about 3 years. Relaxing at my parents' home for the first time in a while, I noticed my phone vibrating on the desk. The call was from Jeff. It was several weeks after the divorce. What could he possibly want? With a puzzled expression, I answered the phone. Hello, what do you want? It's been a long time. Have you been well? I shivered at his uncharacteristically considerate words. I rubbed my right arm with my free hand. Thanks to you. I've been feeling much better since the divorce, both physically and mentally. Is that so? Jeff seemed too deflated to retort against my sarcasm, his voice lacking strength. There were a few seconds of silence. Jeff was the one to break it. The reason I called today is because I have a favor to ask of you. A favor? Yeah, I'm getting impatient with his hesitation. Could you hurry up? I really didn't want to pick up your call. If you have something to say, go through the lawyer, remember? Sorry. The favor is, could you reduce the alimony you're demanding from Susan and me? I was stunned by his audacious request and pressed my temples with my hand. Wait, you thought I would just agree to that? It can't be helped. It's hard to talk to Susan's ex-husband about this. So he wanted to say it was unavoidable. How selfish of Jeff. Susan thought finally the three of us could live together after getting divorced from her husband. Wait a minute, what about the three of you? What happened to Susan's child? Oh, the kid went to live with her ex-husband. As if Emma had taken over a classmate's family. I felt dizzy at their selfishness, not considering the children's feelings at all. Jeff continued as if it didn't matter. I got fired from my job because somehow it got out I was using the company car to go out with Susan. That's wrongful termination, don't you think? Despite everything being his own fault, there was no sign of regret from Jeff. Is this man really in his late 30s? So, my income is zero right now, and Susan is just working a part-time job at the supermarket. We're really strapped for cash, barely managing our own lives. So please, can you reduce the amount? We really can't afford to pay it. I wonder what expression Jeff is making on the other end of the phone. I can't see it, but regardless of his face, my answer is the same. I refuse.
Why?
Jeff immediately retorts. Firstly, I dislike the idea that you're coming to me because it's difficult to talk to the other guy. And what about Susan? If she wants a reduction, she should be asking along with you. That would be the proper way to do it. That's true, but look, she's also having a tough time right now. It's not like she can handle any more stress. Not her problem? Oh, I see.
With that attitude, I definitely won't reduce anything. No, that's not what I mean. I messed up, just listen to me.
I silently listened to Jeff spilling more blunders. I don't know what's happening in this family or why they're having a hard time, but it's not my problem. Displeased with Jeff's attitude, I decided to let him in on a little secret. By the way, I was the one who reported your affair to your company.
What?
He paused after letting out that bewildered sound. Hello? Can you hear me? That explains it. What? He muttered quietly. That explains why suddenly my boss started checking the car's dashcam. You were the one who told them. Yes, that was me. A kind mom friend told me she saw you and Susan together in the car. So, I thought it was strange and hired a detective agency to investigate, and oh, did they find evidence of your affair? Photos of you taking Susan out in the company car during work hours, pretending to be attending to clients.
Damn it.
From the phone came the sound of fabric rubbing in a rhythmic pattern. Is he fidgeting? I took those photos, clearly time-stamped, to your workplace after our divorce and handed them to your boss. It was terrible because of you. I was told by higher-ups that I broke company rules and that my actions were malicious, which resulted in me getting fired. Plus, I was ostracized by everyone until I left. What a disaster. He doesn't seem to realize at all that he brought this upon himself. He seems determined to blame everything on me.
It's your fault I got fired.
I'm fed up with Jeff repeating the same excuses, and I respond more forcefully.
The real problem is that you were the one skipping work and having an affair. Even elementary school kids, if asked who's in the wrong between us, would say it's you.
Still, telling the company was a low blow. Is he trying to say that wasn't fair? But the moment I was kicked out of our home because of his affair, any notion of fair play was thrown out the window. He is still mumbling something, but then he suddenly goes silent. Could it be? He seems to have realized something. Did you, by any chance, spread the word among Emma's class parents that Susan and I were having an affair? I'm taken aback by the accusation of spreading rumors. I clarify with correction. No, that's not right. I only briefly explained the situation to that mom friend who tipped me off about your and Susan's affair, as a thank you for informing me.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. You did spread it around.
Well, now that I'm no longer Emma's mother, I have absolutely no dealings with that mom friend or anyone else from the school. I never thought about the aftermath of what I said. Because of that, Emma is being looked at with disdain in her class, seen as a thief who drove out Susan's child and took her mother. And Susan, she gets whispered about at every parent meeting. Don't you care at all? No, not really. My response must have sounded exceptionally cold-hearted to him. But honestly, I felt no pity for a child who had been verbally abusive to me from the start and the woman who took my husband, no matter what hardships they faced.
You're a heartless monster.
Like a character out of a comic book, he said in a heavy tone.
If anyone's the monster, it's you, lacking any moral compass. Shut up. Just reduce the alimony.
Jeff's demanding attitude hardly seemed like one asking for a favor, leaving me astounded, and finally, I retorted, "No."
If you're any kind of parent, show your child how to work decently and pay for your mistakes.
Fooling around. I hung up the phone while he was still shouting. He called back immediately, but I didn't answer, instead sending a text message, "I will not interact with you except through a lawyer. Do not call me again." After enduring days of being oppressed by Jeff and Emma during our marriage, ending this final battle left me feeling refreshed. I put the phone back on the desk and went to the kitchen to make some tea. After failing to get the alimony reduced, Jeff scrambled to find a job. Susan also tried to negotiate with her ex-husband for a reduction, but that failed too. Then Jeff, luckily, got employed by another real estate firm in the same industry, but the word got out quickly about his affair during business hours, making his new workplace uncomfortable. I wonder how long he'll last there. Surprisingly, Jeff seems to be sticking it out for now. Probably because resigning would mean no income and an inability to pay the alimony. Both burdened with their own and each other's alimony payments, and with children to care for, their family finances must be a disaster, but I was slightly impressed by his tenacity. As for Susan, she had to leave her part-time job at the local supermarket after rumors of the affair spread, thanks to the formidable network of mom friends. It seems the mom friends network is quite terrifying. Susan will likely struggle to find work locally again. She will be stigmatized as the woman who went after a child's father. Now that Jeff has become the sole breadwinner for that family, I wonder what will become of them. Whether they find happiness or face misfortune, it has nothing to do with me.
Thinking this, I quietly sipped my warm tea. Oh no! I'm gonna call an ambulance.
I reached for my phone as my oldest son's wife, Julie, collapsed from her chair right in front of me. She started screaming in pain, curling up in a fetal position. Just as I was about to dial, my young grandchild stopped me. "Grandma, you don't need to call." Hearing the reason why my grandchild stopped me drained the color from my face. My grandchild knew all about the unbelievable plan. "My name is Lisa, and I'm a 54-year-old web designer. My husband, who works for a major trading company, has been stationed in France for the past 9 years. He comes back home for emergencies and important occasions, but mostly he doesn't return. We both love our jobs, so I have no complaints about him not being around. My job, simply put, can be done from anywhere as long as I have a computer. We considered moving to France together when my husband got his assignment there, but we decided against it for a reason. Right around the time his assignment was confirmed, my oldest son and his wife were expecting a child. We've been living with my oldest son and his wife since they got married. Julie's parents live far away, and it seems her brother and his wife live with them. Julie's delivery was expected to be around the same time as her sister-in-law's, making it difficult for her to have her baby back home. This child would be my first grandchild. And with me working from home, I thought I could provide support for Julie during her first pregnancy. My husband agreed it was best for me to stay. My son, Tom, after graduating from a vocational school, works at a local auto repair shop. Julie took a short break from her part-time job before and after giving birth but returned to work quite early. She now works part-time at a nearby cafe. I still remember what Julie told me shortly after we started living together. "Since you work from home, I'll leave the housework to you," she said with a bright smile. Sure, I work from home, but that doesn't mean I have a lot of free time. Julie only works part-time either in the morning or afternoon. She clearly has more time to manage household chores. Yet, she acted as if it was natural to neglect her share of the chores. In the end, the household duties remained divided between my husband and me, just as they were before we started living with my oldest son and his wife. When you live with more people, of course, the household chores double. My oldest son and his wife, Julie, acted as if they were guests, not lifting a finger around the house. It was all very convenient for them. Meanwhile, my husband and I struggled with the increased workload, busier than ever before. And now, all the household responsibilities have fallen squarely on my shoulders. I was overjoyed when my first grandchild, Natalie, was born. My husband had to go abroad soon after, so he was a bit sad, but it couldn't be helped. Natalie was incredibly cute from the moment she was a baby. And now she's 9 years old. 9 years old is such a sassy and adorable age for a girl. Natalie has grown into just such a cheeky little girl. However, Julie seemed disinterested in Natalie right from when she was a baby. Julie has always said she's not good with kids, so I was worried about leaving her in charge of raising Natalie. In the end, since I work from home, I ended up taking care of Natalie as well. Julie probably changed Natalie's diapers the least in the family. She only showed affection when it suited her, neglecting all other aspects of care. It was cherry-picking parenting at its finest. I think Natalie was about 3 years old at the time. I was incredibly busy with work. It was what you'd call a peak season. For me, working freelance, missing a deadline could spell disaster. I was frazzled, trying to juggle work, housekeeping, and childcare. But such a pace couldn't last, and one day, I collapsed from overwork. Lying exhausted on the living room sofa, Julie's words upon returning from her part-time job were shocking. "Please go pick up Natalie from daycare. This is no time to be lounging around. You haven't even done the laundry yet. I can't believe you're just lying there without doing any housework." At that moment, my face must have been as pale as a ghost. Tom came home just 5 minutes after Julie and, seeing my condition, hurriedly called the hospital. I will never forget the words Julie said to me when I was clearly unwell. Reluctantly, after Tom suggested it, Julie went to pick up Natalie, but not before giving me a disdainful click of her tongue. I'll never forget that either. Tom took me to the hospital where I was diagnosed with exhaustion and ended up staying the night. Going home meant returning to chores. So Tom suggested I stay in the hospital so I could actually rest. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in ages. I must have been truly exhausted. Though I recovered physically, I had fallen behind on several work projects. Frustrated, I focused even harder on my work. And I made it clear to Julie that I wanted her to share in the household duties. It was probably because Tom was listening. Julie unusually agreed with a seemingly earnest attitude. However, her words never turned into action. She started to help with the chores a bit, but essentially, I was still the one managing the household. I had to remind myself that not everything can improve at once. Or else I felt like I might snap at Julie. Thinking of living with my oldest son and his wife as a test of my patience made things a bit easier to bear. As Natalie grew, I noticed Julie was quite vain. Before parent-teacher meetings, she always bought new clothes. While I could somewhat understand if it were Natalie's clothes, Julie only bought for herself. Natalie is now at an age where she wants to dress up too. But she is left out. Always wearing hand-me-downs or thrift store finds. Julie seemed to be deceiving Tom about her spending. She showed off Natalie's thrifted clothes as if they were a bargain. Then flaunting her own new clothes as if they were thrift store treasures too. She's quite cunning. I prefer not to meddle too much in my son and his wife's affairs, so I never commented on this. All I could do was take Natalie shopping for new clothes each season. Seeing Natalie's happy face became my joy. I believe this is how a bond stronger than just grandmother and granddaughter formed between Natalie and me. Please don't spoil Natalie too much, mother-in-law. Buying her too many things isn't good for her education. If you're going to buy something for Natalie, buy it for me instead. When Natalie and I came back from shopping for clothes, Julie was waiting for us, fidgeting irritably. Natalie shrank back, hiding behind me. "Julie, you buy plenty for yourself. And it's not like we're spoiling her, we're just replacing clothes that she's outgrown each season." I was so taken aback by Julie's attitude. I had been feeling that Julie's spending had been getting out of control lately. Probably because she's trying to keep up with her friends. Many of whom are doctors' wives or daughters of company presidents, and started wearing more brand name items. I understand the desire to show off, but there's such a thing as living within your means.
I've kept quiet, but don't you think you've been a bit reckless with money lately, Julie? I know you want to keep up with your friends, but Tom's salary can only stretch so far. Do you realize how much Natalie's education is going to cost as she gets older?
I had reached my limit. It was unfair to Natalie, who must feel wronged. She's at an age where she wants to dress up. That should be understood by her mother, but Julie prioritizes herself. It's like she lacks maternal awareness.
Julie, you're a mother. Please be a role model for Natalie.
Julie's face turned red in a flash, as if my words hit a nerve. She seemed to want to retort but couldn't find the words, just grinding her teeth in frustration. It must be frustrating for her to be hit so close to home. I hope she takes this as an opportunity to reflect on her life. I hoped this would make her reflect on her lifestyle. But then things started to change.
Mom, are you feeling all right? You look pale. Are you overworking again? You're not getting any younger, you know.
Tom asked me at breakfast. It had been years since I could sit down to a meal. Since I spoke up, Julie began to take on more household duties. She hasn't done much with laundry or cleaning, but she's decided to take charge of the meals. From breakfast to dinner, Julie has been preparing all the meals lately.
Really?
I haven't taken on more work, and Julie has been helping with the chores lately, so I should be feeling lighter. But I just feel so sluggish. Maybe it's my age. Lately, my health has been surprisingly poor. I wake up feeling so sluggish it takes me a while to get out of bed. Just a little movement makes me dizzy, and my head is constantly in a fog. It feels different from when I collapsed from overwork before.
Are you okay? I'll make something easy to digest for lunch,
Julie says with a cheerful voice, but without any real concern. It almost feels like she enjoys seeing me suffer. Thinking that makes me feel ashamed of myself for trying to blame my condition on someone else. Julie has been trying to change for the better. I need to respond to that effort. Thank you. Your cooking is always so thoughtful and delicious. I'm looking forward to lunch, I managed to say with a smile. However, Julie's cooking has a unique taste to it. Honestly, it's pretty bad, although I always eat it saying it's delicious. Tom and Natalie seem to eat it without complaint, so maybe it's just my taste that's off. After all, it's hard to believe Natalie would find something unpalatable to be tasty. Perhaps this is all due to my poor health. After eating the udon soup Julie made for lunch, I felt so unwell I had to stop working and rest in my room. I'm too dizzy to walk straight to the hospital. Could there be a serious illness hiding? The more I think about it, the more anxious I become, unable to sleep. Mother-in-law, are you okay? I thought maybe something warm to drink might help you feel a bit better, Julie says, bringing in a tray with hot milk. The Julie of the past would never have made such a gesture. If she had shown such remorse and changed her behavior earlier, I would have spoken up sooner. The mug emits a gentle steam. I added a little sugar and vanilla to make it easier to drink. Sniffing the aroma, I indeed notice a sweet scent different from regular hot milk.
Thank you, I'll have some,
I said as Julie watched me drink the hot milk intently. Almost as if she was observing to make sure I drank it all, which felt a bit uncomfortable. The hot milk was sweet and tasty, but it left a strange, bitter aftertaste. Thanks, it was delicious. I appreciate it, Julie, I said as I handed her the empty mug. That's when I noticed something gritty at the bottom of the mug. As I squinted to see what it was, Julie, noticing my attention, quickly hid the mug behind her. Well, please rest up. I'll think of something easy to eat for dinner. You need to eat well to regain your strength since health is your wealth, Julie said with encouraging words before leaving the room. I felt my dizziness worsen and closed my eyes gently. Even with my eyes shut, it felt like the ceiling was spinning. I couldn't help but worry about when my health would return to normal. I decided to take a taxi to the hospital tomorrow. Grandma, are you okay? The next thing I knew, it was already evening when I woke up. Natalie, who had returned from school, was peering at me with concern.
Ah, Natalie, welcome back. Did you have fun at school today?
Natalie nodded happily at my words. Yes. Just as she was about to say something, the door opened and Julie appeared. Natalie swallowed her words upon seeing Julie. She looked a bit scared of her.
Dinner will be ready soon. You have to eat, even if you're not feeling well,
Julie said, urging me towards the dining table. All right, I replied and got up. That's when Natalie tightly grabbed my hand. She seemed to want to say something but couldn't with Julie present. Julie, sensing this, didn't move at all. Reluctantly, I led the way to the dining room where dinner was ready. A delicious-looking menu was prepared for tonight. But for me, it was a painful task. It's not Julie's fault. My taste has just gotten a bit weird. Please eat a lot, she says as she offers the simmered ground pork over radish. The silky meat sauce on the pure white radish looks perfect. I proceed to eat, thinking it must really be delicious. And I was surprised. It was truly delicious.
Julie, this is really good,
I say, feeling happy with the taste for the first time in a while, and start reaching for other dishes. They all taste delicious, and I'm relieved to feel my sense of taste returning. I excitedly tell Natalie how delicious it is. Natalie looks tense for some reason. Just as I'm about to ask her if something happened, Julie, standing in front of me, collapses from her chair.
Julie! What's wrong? Are you okay?
Julie starts moaning on the floor, with sweat beading on her forehead.
This is serious. I'm gonna call an ambulance.
I reach for my smartphone in shock. But Natalie gently stops me. Grandma, you don't need to call, she says with a serious look. Despite her mother suffering, she says not to call an ambulance.
What?
I reply, dumbfounded.
Because Mom did something bad. She put something weird in your food. I switched them. I switched Mom's dish with yours,
Natalie says with tears in her eyes, desperately explaining. Shocked, I hesitantly taste a bit of Julie's dish on my tongue. It was unbelievably terrible and my tongue felt numb even from just a little taste. I immediately suspected something was off. But I couldn't just leave Julie suffering.
Natalie, thank you. You saved me. Let's take your mom to the hospital now. We can talk about this later.
Saying that, Natalie nodded solemnly and handed me my phone. The ambulance arrived quickly, and Julie was taken to the hospital. Watching Julie suffer in the ambulance, I shuddered at the thought that it could have been me if Natalie hadn't been so quick-witted. I felt nothing but gratitude towards her. After receiving stomach washing and an 4-drip, Julie seemed to calm down a bit. The doctor explained that it appeared some medication had been mixed into our dinner. A little bit wouldn't have been an issue, but the combination or a large amount could be dangerous. This time, traces of a drug that should never be mixed were found. When I mentioned my ongoing poor health, the doctor immediately ordered a blood test. The results were shocking, indicating long-term consumption of the medication found in Julie's stomach. It made sense to me then. My taste wasn't off. Julie had been adding medication to my food for a long time. Probably slower to affect me than she anticipated. Today, it seems she added a large amount, including a dangerous combination. Maybe she intended to finish things today. Regardless, it was a terrifying thought. I told Tom everything once he arrived at the hospital, asking the doctor to explain the medication part since I couldn't do it well. Tom was understandably shocked. He might not be able to believe his wife had been trying to harm his mother. He stood frozen in the hallway, and Natalie, hugging him, said in her young voice, "Dad, it's not your fault." Tom, holding Natalie tightly, apologized tearfully. I thought he was sorry for the past and likely for what was to come. The next morning was when I was finally able to speak with a somewhat recovered Julie. When I stood by the bed, Julie glared at me.
It doesn't seem like you think this is your own fault, given that attitude.
I sighed, appalled by Julie's demeanor.
Why are you still up and about? Are you unusually sturdy or something?
Julie retorted sharply, even while lying in bed.
What was so unsatisfying for you? Was I in your way? Well, you can rest easy. By the time you're discharged, we won't have to see each other again.
At my words, Julie's voice trembled. What do you mean?
This is from Tom. He said he can't stand to look at your face anymore.
I explained, unfolding a green document in front of her. It was a divorce paper, signed by Tom. Julie's eyes widened in shock as she stared at the divorce paper. She probably never thought Tom would suggest divorce. Tom had always been on Julie's side. Because I had advised him to support his wife over his mother if any conflict arose. I've also had my share of struggles with mother-in-law issues. I knew the struggles of being a daughter-in-law all too well. Tom understood my perspective correctly. But this incident was beyond any regular family dispute. It was life-threatening. Tom had made his decision.
Lies. Tom wouldn't leave me. What have you told him? You should have just died.
Julie yelled, still lacking the strength to move on her own. The medication she had administered must have been potent.
Even Natalie always takes your side. Such a disloyal daughter, not helping her mother. Despite everything I told her, she betrayed me. I shouldn't have had her.
Julie's harsh words were too much for me. I could tolerate her bad-mouthing me. But I couldn't believe she would slander her own flesh and blood. It was a relief Natalie wasn't here to hear this.
So, you don't think all this is your own doing? You have no intention of reflecting on your actions. Do you even know what reflection means?
I felt utter contempt for Julie. Struggling in frustration, Julie couldn't move freely yet. She probably wanted to grab me.
Here's a business card for a lawyer. When you can move your hand, sign the divorce papers and send them to the lawyer right away. If you don't agree, I'll go to the police and tell them everything. Even if it doesn't get to the police, I'll reveal everything if it goes to court.
I left her hospital room after saying that. As soon as I closed the door, I heard Julie yelling, "Witch!" It sounded like the howling of a defeated dog to me. A smile naturally came to my lips. I felt surprisingly refreshed. Later, Julie signed the divorce papers and mailed them to the lawyer as if she had resigned herself to the situation. Tom immediately filed them at the city hall. They were officially divorced and became strangers. At that time, Julie was still hospitalized, and her parents had come to visit her from afar. Hearing about the divorce, Julie's parents were furious and stormed into our house. Tom and I explained everything, showing the medical reports to Julie's incredulous parents. They seemed convinced after seeing the documents and deeply apologized at the end, repeatedly thanking us for handling the situation quietly, making us feel almost embarrassed for their gratitude. There was no apology from Julie. However, she kept calling Tom's phone, saying, "I want to see you." Tom has continued to ignore her, wanting nothing to do with her. The custody of Natalie went to Tom. Julie's hospitalization lasted longer than expected, and I heard she still has some paralysis. She's supposed to live with her parents in the countryside for a while. Her return home as a divorced woman has made her the talk of the neighborhood. It didn't take long for the details of the divorce to spread. Julie became known locally as the failed wife who tried to poison her mother-in-law and was sent back to her parents' home. The paralysis serves as proof of the rumors, and she can hardly go outside. Locked in her room with the shutters closed, she remains in the dark. She still muttered curses about me. It's just frustrating that Julie doesn't realize sooner that this situation is entirely of her own making. My health improved quickly after I stopped eating Julie's meals. The medication prescribed by the doctor to neutralize the drugs must have worked well. I also believe that the absence of stress has accelerated my recovery. I was worried that Natalie might be depressed about her parents' divorce, but she has become even brighter and more active than before. Julie's presence must have been somewhat stifling for her. It's heartening to think she's returned to her true self. My husband will be returning from France next spring. Natalie seems to be eagerly awaiting the reunion with her grandfather, whom she hasn't seen for a while. When my husband returns, it will be much more lively. I want to quickly forget the unpleasant memories and focus on creating a joyful future.
Being able to watch Natalie grow up is the greatest happiness I could ask for.
When I returned from my trip, I found my house had burned down. Though Dan was rescued from the second floor, he suffered severe burns all over his body. At the hospital we rushed to, Dan was wrapped in bandages all over his body, lying in bed. As I shed tears, Rachel lashed out at me with harsh words.
You must be secretly thrilled inside, right? You can rebuild the house with insurance, and you're safe and sound.
I couldn't believe my ears.
Because, compared to everyone else's stylish homes, I thought ours was an embarrassment. See, it's better off burned down.
Rachel's laughter echoed through the hospital room, filled with the smell of disinfectant. I glared at Rachel's smug profile with all the anger I could muster.
I know you're the one who set the fire. I will never forgive you. Just you wait, I'll make you regret this.
I'm Kelly, a 63-year-old housewife. While managing the accounting for the small factory my husband left behind, I lead a busy yet fulfilling life. My son, Dan, lives in the same city with his wife, Rachel, and their daughter, Anna, visiting me during long holidays. Rachel, my daughter-in-law, has been kind to me, especially after losing my husband last year. Dan, who left home after high school in defiance of his father's wishes to take over the factory, seemed to have been job hopping for a while. Rachel, who met Dan at the restaurant where they worked, watched over him warmly. When they decided to get married, I was full of gratitude for her marrying my less-than-perfect eldest son. Anna is a beauty like her mother and mature beyond her 9 years. We have fun baking cookies and chatting whenever she comes to visit on my days off. I intended to keep a good distance with my son's family. That's when Dan, who rarely calls, suggested they move in with me.
It must be lonely on your own. Why don't we live together? I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in living together. Don't be so stubborn. Having us and Anna around will help you feel less lonely. I'm not lonely at all. So, we're moving in with you next month. I said I'm not interested in living together.
Despite my refusal, my son's family moved in the following month. Well, living with my cute granddaughter and kind daughter-in-law isn't too bad. But soon, I was shocked to discover Rachel's true nature. I'm home. As I opened the front door, there stood Rachel, as always, standing imposingly in the entrance. She presented me with a speck of dust she had picked up with her fingertips, accusing me in a shrill voice.
There was dust in the corner of the stairs. I rushed to clean before work, so I must have missed some trash. Then you should wake up earlier. I can't invite my mom's friends over to such a shabby and dirty house.
I was infuriated. Then she, a full-time homemaker, should do the cleaning herself. Besides, although the exterior is a 30-year-old wooden 2-story building, we renovated the interior 5 years ago, so there's nothing uncomfortable about living here.
Rachel, I'm working, and just preparing meals for 4 is tough enough. As we agreed when you moved in, I need help with cleaning and laundry.
Rachel's eyes narrowed at my words.
Huh? This is your house, so it's only natural that you do everything. Don't blame me just because you can't handle it.
I lost the will to argue and fell silent. I thought she was a quiet and lovely lady, but she was completely pretending. The next day, as I was about to open the gate to my home, I felt a strong gaze on my back. Turning around, I saw Camila from the neighborhood, staring at me with an eco bag in hand. After I greeted her, Camila frowned.
People aren't always what they seem. I never thought you'd be the type to bully your daughter-in-law.
Camila spoke with a tone of sympathy.
Rachel has been crying and telling everyone how you don't feed her properly, and how she gets scolded if she doesn't keep the house spotless every day, and how disgraceful it is for a daughter-in-law to work, and that you've even stopped her from working? I haven't said any of those things.
Camila looked at my face skeptically.
Well, I believe you, Kelly, but squashing rumors is gonna be tough. It's even reached the neighborhood association president, you know?
That explains why lately, the folks I bump into at the supermarket or on the street have been acting all weird around me. The moment we make eye contact, they scurry off, or groups suddenly disband. Probably, this gossip monger, Camila, spread the word for kicks. Watching her leave, I entered my house with a heavy heart. We had agreed before moving in together that utility bills and groceries would be split between our families. Yet, 6 months into living together, my son Dan and his wife Rachel hadn't paid their share of the living expenses. Even when I asked Rachel for payment on Dan's payday, she always had an excuse to stall.
Rachel, I sent you the breakdown of the living expenses a week ago on your cell, didn't I?
Oh, I forgot to withdraw the money.
I'll pay later, so could you cover for me in the meantime?
And just like that, another month would pass without them paying. After 6 months of this pattern, I finally confronted Dan.
I've been covering for you for half a year now. Dan, have you actually been giving Rachel the money?
Geez, she said she's gonna pay later, so she will. We're rich, so stop being so petty. I couldn't help but retort to my son's grudging reply.
Sure, we have your father's inheritance, and I'm still working, so we could manage without your contribution. But that's not the point. It's about responsibility. If Rachel can't pay, she should at least explain why to me.
What a nagging old lady.
What did you just say?
Just got back. Anna's voice from coming home from her lessons put a pause to our argument. Dan greeted Anna and went to take a shower, bringing our skirmish to a temporary halt. But the issues didn't end there. Shortly after moving in, Rachel began dressing up and going out on weekend nights, making Anna and me promise to keep it a secret from Dan. On weekends, Dan would be out drinking late with his colleagues, thinking if he got home before Rachel, he wouldn't find out. Honestly, if they have money for that, they should pay their living expenses first. One evening, while peeling potatoes in a gloomy mood after Rachel had left, Anna, washing the potatoes, murmured,
"Mom's not planning to pay for the utilities or groceries, I think."
I stopped peeling.
You heard the conversation with your dad the other day? Yeah, it was audible all the way to the parking lot.
Anna said matter-of-factly.
Before moving, I overheard Mom and Dad saying, "Now that the annoying grandpa is gone, let's push into Grandma's place. If we live with her, we save on our rent, get meals prepared, and have the utilities paid for us. We can enjoy the savings." Was their plan from the start to make me pay for everything?
Anger slowly rose within me. Do they think of me as some sort of ATM cum housemaid?
And Mom can't do housework at all. When we were in the house, meals were just pastries or fast food, and she hardly cleaned. The only thing she really did was laundry, so don't expect too much, Grandma. Got it, Anna dear. Thanks for telling me,
I said with a forced smile and resumed peeling potatoes. To hear such words from my granddaughter, what a pitiful mother I must be. I felt a little sorry for Rachel. On Friday night, unusually cheerful, Rachel struck up a conversation.
"Kelly, do you have plans this Saturday?"
I quickly thought back. Last month, when I honestly answered a similar question, Rachel got furious.
"Trip? If you have that kind of leisure, give Anna some allowance instead."
You're so thoughtless. I didn't want to hear that from someone who doesn't pay their living expenses. So I decided to hide the truth this time.
"I plan to relax at home."
Oh, I see.
"If you do go out, make sure to tell me."
I have plans too."
"Plans?"
I felt uneasy. Perhaps I should inform her about the trip afterward. After Rachel left, Anna came over with a bursting smile.
"Next Saturday, Mom and Dad are gonna take me shopping for clothes.
It's been so long since we all went to the mall together, I'm excited." Her innocent smile made me smile too.
"That's wonderful. I hope you find some cute clothes."
"Yeah, I'll show them to you when we get back." I felt relieved. I've been worried about Anna, who, despite being mature for her age, seemed to lack the joyfulness of childhood. Seeing Anna's joy while shopping with her parents was truly heartwarming. And then came Saturday. After Dan's family left, I too left the house. It was a day trip to a beachside spa. At a wonderful hotel, I enjoyed a lunch filled with seafood delights. I felt all my accumulated stress melt away. Stepping off the train, I made my way home with a light step. As I walked along the night road, I saw a crowd from afar near my house. Beyond them, police cars and fire engines were parked, yellow tape was stretched out, and several firefighters and police officers stood around. Smelling smoke, I realized there had been a fire nearby. I wondered if everyone in the house was safe. As I walked on, lost in thought, Camila stopped me with a surprised look.
Kelly? Weren't you at home? I went on a trip. Then, was that Dan who was taken away in an ambulance earlier? Dan went shopping. It seems he came back to get something and got caught in the fire. It was arson.
My heart skipped a beat. Pushing through the crowd to a firefighter, I introduced myself and was led to the front of my house. I was at a loss for words at the sight before me. The traditional two-story house that stood there just this morning was nowhere to be found. All that remained was charred beams, parts of sooty walls, and what used to be furniture, now just debris. Kneeling on the sidewalk, I stared blankly at what was left of my home. A police officer approached me with hesitation.
You were on a trip, right?
Yes.
We'd like to talk to you in more detail tomorrow. Can you give us your contact information?
Without thinking, I gave him my cell phone number.
Your son was involved in the fire, but fortunately, he's conscious. Do you know which hospital?
No. Please tell me. The garage was spared from the fire, so my car was safe. As I looked up the hospital's direction on my cell phone, I received a call from Rachel. I heard you were seriously injured in the fire. Are you okay?
I was on a trip.
There was silence on the other end for a while.
You were home all day today, right? I decided to go to the spa on a whim. The one taken away was Dan. Camila must have mistaken us. Dan and I have similar hairstyles and hair colors.
Huh?
I thought he didn't come back because we were supposed to meet at the station at 4. He must have gotten the day wrong for the arson.
Huh?
Never mind.
Which hospital? I'll bring Anna. Rachel's nonchalant tone, as if she wasn't worried about her husband, felt off to me. Even if we didn't get along, he was her significant son. I rushed to the hospital, explained the situation at the reception, and hurried to the room. Seeing Dan lying on the bed, I couldn't help but tear up. It must have been hot and painful to get caught in a fire. Wrapped in bandages all over, he looked like a mummy. A while later, the doctor appeared and explained the treatment and hospitalization plans. Dan was seriously injured with burns all over his body, but his life was not in danger. He would need skin graft surgery using his own skin and treatment for the scars, requiring about 6 months of hospitalization. Soon after, Rachel and Anna arrived. Anna quickly teared up, stuttering Dad and kneeling beside the bed, sobbing. Next to her, Rachel glared at Dan with a terrible look. Then, suddenly turning to me across the bed, she snapped.
I told you to let me know if your plans changed. Why did you just go off? Do I need your approval to go out? Originally, it was supposed to be you lying there with severe burns. Don't you feel bad for Dan?
Blamed as if I were at fault, I couldn't agree. Then Rachel smirked maliciously.
Kelly, didn't you secretly cheer inside? With the insurance money, you can rebuild the house, and you escaped unharmed. Anyway, it's good riddance to that old shack.
I couldn't believe my ears. My precious home, filled with memories of my late husband, was reduced to beams and walls by the time I returned. Could she not imagine the shock I experienced? Taken aback, Rachel went on and on.
I mean, everyone else's houses are so stylish, and ours was just an old, shabby house. Embarrassing, right? Well, it's better off burning down. Mom, why would you say something so horrible?
Oh, it's the truth, Anna.
Moving our stuff to the hotel was the right call.
We're just lucky, you know. Rachel's loud laughter echoed through the hospital room, filled with the smell of disinfectant. Unable to argue in the hospital room, I clenched my fists and gritted my teeth, holding back my anger. Then, Dan, who seemed to be sleeping, moaned. That's right, Dan was conscious, despite being wrapped in bandages all over. He slightly moved his mouth and said in a low voice, "Rachel."
What?
Rachel leaned down, bringing her ear close to Dan's mouth. After hearing Dan's whisper, Rachel's expression changed.
Got it, I'll handle it,
she said, then turned to Anna and me, suggesting it was time to leave. Walking down the hallway, I pondered over the exchange between Dan and Rachel. It remained a mystery, but I caught a few words: ashes, money. In fact, I inherited gold bars as part of my husband's estate. They're stored in a bank's safety deposit box, and I hadn't told Dan their exact location. Misunderstanding that the gold was in our home safe, Dan might have sneaked out during shopping to steal it while I was away. Unaware of this, Rachel, who had taken separate actions from Anna, might have committed arson. It's a 15-minute drive from the shopping mall to our house. If Rachel planned separate activities with a set meet-up time with Anna, it would be possible for her to set the fire. The words Rachel accidentally let slip got the day wrong, and the way she excitedly called me, thinking I was caught in the fire. Plus, her anger towards me in the hospital suggests that I was her target. Dan is the beneficiary of my insurance policy. Even if I survived with burns, a significant amount of sickness benefit would be deposited into Dan's account. Feeling dizzy with shock, my body heated up with anger. Rachel, setting our house on fire for my insurance money and coolly causing Dan severe burns. Above all, using shopping with Anna as a cover for her plot, showed no shred of motherliness. My heart ached seeing Anna walking down, head hung low. Her fun shopping memories probably erased. I glared at Rachel, anger burning through me.
I know you started the fire. I will never forgive you. Just wait, you'll regret this.
Considering Rachel's preparedness in moving their belongings to the hotel beforehand, it was clear she was the arsonist. Furious, but leaving the evidence gathering to the police. My next step was to find a temporary home. Before I could call, the president of my husband's factory called to check on me. After hearing my story, he immediately arranged 3 weeks of paid leave and started the process of moving me into company housing. Rachel was offered the same, but she chose to stay in a hotel with Anna, so I moved into the company housing alone, dragging my carry-on. After contacting the insurance company and buying essentials at a large supermarket, I returned home. Unpacking could wait. I microwaved a pre-made meal and ate. The moment my stomach was full, the tension broke, and exhaustion overwhelmed me. Thankful for the furnished room, I prepared the bed and fell asleep without changing. The next day was spent shopping for necessities, as everything had burned. Having my driver's license, cell phone, and credit cards was a small mercy. Sitting in the shopping center's food court, eating ice cream, I suddenly remembered the words I overheard between Dan and Rachel. On my way back to the company housing, I stopped by the remains of our house and saw Rachel, phone in hand, sifting through the ashes. "Dan, you won't find the safe here. It contains the gold bars, right?" "Oh, Anna's piano lesson time." "Yes, I can come in 4 days." "I'll search again then." Hidden behind the neighbor's fence. Hearing her conversation, I was certain. They were indeed searching for the gold bars. She planned to take them without telling me. Smirking, I left, planning a grand welcome for them. 4 days later, Rachel arrived at the charred remains to find neighborhood women gossiping in a circle. "Hello, Camila, Nancy, Lisa." She greeted me in her sweet voice. They all frowned at her turn. Camila, with a grim face, spoke up. "We heard about the fire. You're the arsonist, Rachel?" "What?" "Fooled by your quiet appearance. Planning to burn your husband and claim the insurance money, were you?" "How scary."
You knew Dan was there and still set the fire? What's the police doing? Instead of letting criminals roam free, they should lock you up.
Faced with their glares, Rachel was flustered. Thanks to always being charming and playing the role of the poor daughter-in-law bullied by her mother-in-law, Rachel had won over the residents, who suddenly turned against her.
I wasn't trying to kill Dan.
Rachel's voice faded to a whisper, and I chimed in from the shadows.
No, that's not it. Kelly? The real target was me. You set the fire thinking I was in the house.
Rachel froze. But then, she forced a stiff smile.
I don't understand what you're saying. The safe? I moved it to the company housing on the day of the incident.
Her face lit up when I told her.
Are you coming now? I'll come right now.
Rachel's voice was lively, and I smirked. Upon arriving at the company housing, Rachel's attitude changed drastically, rubbing her forehead on the floor.
I'm sorry, Kelly. Actually, Dan, from his sickbed, ordered me to look for the gold bars. He said they could be sold for money, so I was wandering around the ruins, trying to steal them amidst the chaos of the fire. But I didn't commit arson.
Oh, you were looking for this, weren't you? I brought out a silver dial-type safe from the back of the room, and Rachel's eyes sparkled. She watched eagerly as I opened the safe. But all that emerged was a bundle of old letters.
Letters my husband gave me before we got married. Good thing I kept them in the safe. Damn, just trash. So, where are the gold bars? In a bank safety deposit box. You're going to have to ask a master thief for that. What a waste of time.
I'm leaving. As Rachel attempted to stand up, I gently told her.
Don't be in such a hurry, the main event is just starting. What main event?
Rachel's irritation was apparent as I flipped a large envelope, spilling a vast amount of photos onto the living room table. Rachel gasped and covered her mouth. No wonder, the photos showed her out at night, happily walking through nightlife districts arm in arm with a man, and entering nightclubs with bags from high-end brands.
Rachel, I heard you were quite the delinquent back home. Did you research that too? Your hometown is where our second factory is located. You were quite the troublemaker, breaking shop signs and factory windows. That's in the past, I've forgotten about it.
Rachel defiantly lifted her chin.
Oh really? But these are recent.
I laid out a few photos, tilting my head. Strange.
You're a stay-at-home wife, right? Where's the money for these night outs coming from? Maybe Dan's card?
Rachel, panicking, pleaded with me.
Please, keep it a secret from Dan. If he finds out I've been using his card and even resorted to loan sharks, he'll definitely divorce me.
So, you set the fire.
Tried to burn me along with the house, how terrible.
I said mockingly, and Rachel's face turned into a mask of rage, her voice shrill.
Burning you was the quickest way. Either get the insurance money, or at least the sickness allowance if it fails. I mean, burning that old house was better. Living there was making me sick. A rebuild would have made your late husband happy, wouldn't it?
I sneered. My patience is running thin.
That house was rebuilt when Dan was born. After discussing with my husband, we decided on a traditional architecture that suited wedding ceremonies and rooms.
You have no right to comment as a freeloader. Rachel's forehead vein bulged.
I'm going to the restroom, don't leave just yet.
I insisted and headed to the washroom. As soon as the bathroom door closed, a man's sharp voice rang out.
Hey, what are you doing?
Rushing back to the living room, I found Rachel being restrained by two men in suits. A bottle of pills rolled across the floor.
Rachel attempted to drug Kelly's coffee with a sleep inducer. Rachel, you are under arrest for assault. What? Why are there detectives in the next room? Of course. Talking to an arsonist alone is too dangerous.
I shrugged, and Rachel glared at me with piercing eyes.
Can we take your earlier statement as a confession? I didn't say I set the fire. Then, let's discuss the other charges at the station. Other charges?
Rachel looked bewildered, and I smiled at her.
The mischief you got up to when you were 18. Remember breaking the factory windows? Oh, that pathetic factory. Our second factory. The broken window damaged an important machine, causing a week's shutdown and significant financial loss.
I explained politely.
Back then, we couldn't pinpoint the suspect, but thanks to the detective's inquiries in Rachel's hometown this time, we could identify you as the culprit.
I told Rachel, whose expression stiffened.
All that over something from 10 years ago? We still claim damages,
I said with a full smile.
The total damage and compensation might be around $200,000. $200,000! I can't pay that amount.
Rachel trembled, her face pale, as the detective handcuffed her.
Rachel, you're under arrest for suspicion of assault,
the detective declared as Rachel was led away, and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The plan by Dan and his wife unfolded just as I had suspected. They went out to the mall as a family, setting a meet-up time with Anna to split up. Dan's unexpected departure to smoke a cigarette, which was actually to retrieve the gold bars from the house, was unforeseen by Rachel. She, following the plan, doused a stack of newspapers in the parking lot with kerosene and set it on fire. Dan, mistaking the execution day by a week, got caught in the act. Rachel, the perpetrator of the arson, faced charges for attempted murder by arson, drugging my coffee with a sleep inducer for assault, and the vandalism from 10 years ago. Eager for a quick settlement, I agreed on a $100,000 settlement to facilitate Rachel's social rehabilitation. Rachel, burdened with a massive debt of $320,000, including the unauthorized use of Dan's card amounting to $20,000, the settlement of $100,000, and the vandalism charge of $200,000, works tirelessly at our factory from dawn till dusk to pay it off monthly. She seems to be sobbing at work, saying it'll take a lifetime to pay off. Dan, who had conspired with Rachel planning to split my insurance money, was arrested after his discharge. We settled with a $100,000 payment, withdrawing the complaint and having him work at our factory. The harsh working conditions of hot summers and freezing winters must be tough for Dan, who used to switch jobs whenever he disliked something. However, after threatening him with the possibility of jail and the option to sue again, he quieted down. Despite Dan's fury over Rachel's misuse of his card, they lived together in the factory's company housing, arguing but not divorcing to avoid extra living costs. I bought a condo near Anna's elementary school with the fire insurance payout, and we began living together. Dan and Rachel, insisting on seeing Anna, have been pestering us, but since she wants to avoid them for now, their reunion seems to be on hold. The compensation from Rachel for the vandalism goes into the factory's funds. Despite being separated from her parents, Anna shows no sign of loneliness and goes to school cheerfully. When I'm busy, she cooks something, or even does the shopping for me. Living with my adorable granddaughter is more comfortable than I had imagined. I plan to continue overseeing the factory my husband left behind while living with my granddaughter. As soon as Anna walked into our house, she made herself at home in the guest room as if deciding it was her own.
Because it's closest to both the bathroom and the shower, and I don't have to go through the living room, so I don't have to see anyone's face.
Not having to see anyone's face, she must have meant me, but since she's pregnant, I bit my tongue and didn't say anything harsh.
Look, I want you out of this house. You've been nothing but trouble, not working and just leeching off us. You're the worst.
I don't recall ever mistreating my daughter-in-law or not working and leeching off anyone.
That's it, I've had it. This house is in my name, it's my house. My oldest son and his wife will move in, so get out. We'll take care of the mortgage of $1,400.
All right, thinking even though it's $5,400. I agreed readily and decided to leave.
Take the dog with you.
Of course. Leaving Mary in such a hazardous home was out of the question. I feel bad for Ryan, but I thought a devil of a wife had arrived. Cursing, arriving at our home, I've been observing what her real intentions were. Just as I thought, Anna turned out to be truly malicious. Tim was too, surprisingly naive to be deceived by Anna, which shocked me. I know, I'm not young anymore, and I've changed since those days. Still, I thought that's how you age together. Just like that home. Being fickle is a loss. Irresponsible you, who can't finish anything to the end, maybe endless torment fits you. Especially since your favorite young devil will be there with you. Both of you may as well fall into hell together. My name is Holly, a 58-year-old. I met Tim, my husband 6 years younger than me, about 30 years ago through an acquaintance. At the time, I was 28, and Tim was 22. Fresh out of college and in his first year of work, Tim was incredibly bright to me. Tim, who liked older women, was good at pampering but also had a surprisingly gentlemanly and mature side, which made me take a liking to him. It seems Tim felt the same, and after 6 months of dating, we got married. Thinking about expanding our family and our future, we decided to build a house. Tim always said, "It's best to build a house while we're young." True, considering the mortgage, younger is better. However, it was difficult to secure a home loan with Tim's credit just starting his first job. I could have used my credit, but Tim's pride insisted on having the house in his name. Eventually, after Tim worked diligently for a year and built a good credit history, we were able to get a loan and build our house. I also worked, saving diligently for our home. Working for our own house didn't feel like a chore. Also, at Tim's strong request, we decided to manage our finances separately after marriage. We opened a joint account for living expenses, each contributing a set amount. Truly, a shared asset of the marriage, from which we'd draw for groceries and utilities. Even after the house was built, we agreed to split the mortgage payment each month. Even deciding on these couples' rules felt exciting because of our newlywed status. A year after our marriage, we joyfully moved into our long-awaited home. The brand new house, which we were particular about in its layout, filled our hearts to the brim. A year after the house was built, we were blessed with our first son Ryan, and 3 years later, with our second son Mark. I felt an immense happiness. Now, 30 years after our marriage, Ryan has married and moved out. With Mark also starting his own life, the spacious house was left to just the two of us. Still, I intended to enjoy the slow, peaceful times with my husband in this house. After the kids left, Tim started talking about getting a dog. Probably to distract from the loneliness, though I suspect there were other reasons. Since it became just the two of us, Tim started treating me harshly.
Waking up to your face first thing in the morning is just tiresome.
He would say such things without a care. Getting older is something we both have to deal with, he said, but he wouldn't accept it, adding, "You used to look so beautiful being older, but I guess aging hits you faster than me, and that's just off-putting." Then he'd just retreat to his room immediately. Essentially, he wanted a dog because he didn't want to face me. I like animals, so I wasn't opposed to getting one. Tim goes to work at the office, but since I've always worked from home, I can watch the dog during the day. My worry is whether Tim can really take care of it responsibly until the end. When we built this house, Tim said, "We're gonna keep it as shiny as new forever." At first, he really put effort into cleaning and maintaining the house daily. But within a month, he got bored and said, "Houses age the more you live in them. Keeping it real is best," and stopped using the expensive pressure washer and other tools we bought for maintenance. Also, when our first son, Ryan, was born, he was all enthusiastic about being in charge of bathing him, saying, "Bath time is my job. Don't you bathe him until I get home." But after the first week, he'd just say he was too tired and go to sleep. He never bathed Ryan again. With our second son, Mark, I ended up taking care of everything from the start. Tim, without doing anything himself, would criticize from the sidelines, "Aren't you wiping him properly? Doesn't he need more moisturizer?" And when I asked him to watch the kids on weekends, he'd say, "Kids are better off being cared for by their mom, right?" and then take a nap himself. Until now, I've just accepted cleaning and childcare as my sole responsibilities because that's supposedly women's work. However, Tim stopped contributing to our joint account years ago. He hasn't put in money for the monthly living expenses, nor for the mortgage. The first month he missed a payment, He said he was broke because of friends' weddings and asked for a pass just for that month, which I agreed to. But then it happened again the next month, and the month after. We couldn't let the mortgage payments slide, so I ended up covering them with my money. Yes, Tim's character is such that he can't keep up with cleaning, childcare, or even his financial obligations. I was worried whether he could properly take care of a dog. I only see a future where I'm taking care of everything. Still, if getting a dog keeps our relationship smooth, I was willing to welcome one into our home. We ended up getting a female puppy, half a year old. Tim fell in love with her at first sight at the pet shop. I was hesitant about getting a puppy, considering the lifespan of dogs and our future. There's a chance we might pass away before the dog does. Then she'd be left all alone. But this worry was alleviated knowing that, if anything happened to us, our sons would take care of her. So, we welcomed her into our family. We named her Mary. When Mary first arrived, she brought smiles to us. Watching her play so hard with her tiny body never got boring. Tim seemed happy taking care of her, feeding her, and brushing her. I thought maybe this time Tim would be able to take care of her without issues. One day, while I was working in my room, I heard Mary barking from the other side of the door. It was 7 p.m., and Tim, who's usually home by then, hadn't returned. So, I fed Mary in Tim's place. But from that day on, similar situations started occurring more frequently. When I casually mentioned to Tim that he seemed to be coming home late recently and that Mary was getting lonely, he said, "We've got a new person at work. I've been showing the ropes. So, you'll have to take care of Mary for a while." I expected it, but it happened sooner than I thought. I assumed he'd at least take care of her until she was a grown dog. But even if there's a new person at work, would an older employee like Tim really need to do the direct training? My suspicion was confirmed when, while Tim was in the restroom, a notification popped up on his smartphone saying, "Thanks for the other day. Let's go out for dinner again soon." It turned out his mentoring was outside of work. The message implied it was from a much younger woman. I sighed and hugged Mary tightly. Since Tim stopped taking care of Mary, she's become much more attached to me. It seems Tim isn't amused by this. On weekends, when he tries to play ball with her, Mary doesn't respond to his invites. Instead, she climbs onto my lap, which makes him exclaim, "Who do you think raised you?" in anger. I've been the one taking care of her these past few months. So, it's natural she'd be more attached to me, but I don't say this to Tim. It's the same with the kids. If anything, they seem to prefer me over Tim. Especially Ryan, who's always been a mama's boy, following me around since he was little. If I disappeared from his sight, he'd start crying loudly, calling out for me, which made me worry about his overly gentle and timid nature. But now that he's married, I guess he's turned out just fine. Just as I was thinking about this, my phone rang. It was a call from Anna, Ryan's wife. "Hello? Actually, I'm pregnant. So, could I stay at your place for a while?" The sudden news surprised me, but the thought of having a grandchild was delightful. Moreover, Ryan is often away from home due to his long-haul trucking job. I suggested that she should come over with Ryan once he's back so we can discuss it together. I thought I heard her say something on the other end, but she cheerfully responded, "Okay, I understand. I'll visit soon," making me think I must have misheard. The weekend came, and Ryan and Anna visited our home together. I was surprised by how slim Anna looked, hardly appearing pregnant. "It's still early, so my belly is small. Don't stare, it's creepy." Ryan chided her for her choice of words, but Anna remained aloof. I had met Anna when she and Ryan were getting married, but she didn't seem like this before. Assuming she must be irritable from the pregnancy, I decided to avoid saying anything that might upset her. Eventually, Tim joined us in the living room, clearly thrilled by Anna's youthful and stylish appearance, making unnecessary comparisons to his old-fashioned wife. Anna laughed it off, saying, "Oh, stop it. I'm sure your wife was better when she was younger too, right?" Ryan looked uncomfortable and sweaty next to her. All I could do was sigh. Ryan, unable to be at home often, probably finds it difficult to assert himself with Anna. Moreover, it seems his current job was secured through one of Anna's connections, based on her desire for him to earn more, prompting a career change after their marriage.
Sorry, Mom. Since I can hardly be at home, could you take care of Anna for a bit?
Despite my reservations about Anna, I couldn't refuse my dear son's request. Tim, eager for her to stay, blurted out, "Why not start tonight?" So, we agreed to welcome Anna into our home starting the following week. With a look of regret, Ryan hopped back into his truck for another long haul. Upon arriving, Anna immediately claimed the guest room as her own, stating,
"It's closest to the bathroom and bath, and I don't have to see anyone if I don't walk through the living room."
I swallowed my words, understanding she must be referring to avoiding me, yet I refrained from confronting her since she was pregnant. However, Anna seemed to be out late at night despite her condition, returning home around the last train. When I expressed my concern, she retorted, "Can you not? Pregnant women get stressed, you know," dismissing me. She wouldn't lift a finger for any household chores, expecting me to clean even the room she occupied. Tim excused her behavior, insisting she needs to rest, being pregnant and all. One day, Anna announced she'd be hospitalized for about 2 weeks for a checkup and asked for a significant sum of money, forbidding visits because the nurses will take care of everything. Worried about the baby's health, I complied, despite my concerns for Anna and the unborn child. After a tense 2 weeks, Anna returned from the hospital, noticeably tanner.
"Did you get a tan, Anna?"
I asked casually, only for her to accuse me of being insensitive about pregnancy-related skin changes. Deciding it was best to remain silent, I was shocked when she declared her dislike for dogs and kicked Mary, leading us to avoid Anna as much as possible. 3 months since Anna's arrival, I've confined myself to my room, working and avoiding any interaction with her. I've been bringing Mary's food and litter to this room so she doesn't have to interact with Anna. I prepare meals early in the morning while both Tim and Anna are still asleep. In the evening, when Anna goes out, I take the opportunity to clean the room and do the laundry. If Anna needs anything, she calls for me, so I avoid her otherwise. One day, when I happened to go to the living room during the day, Anna was cheerfully applying nail polish. Having had trouble with the smell of nail polish when I was pregnant with Ryan, I asked Anna out of simple curiosity,
"Are you okay with morning sickness and all?"
My question seemed to annoy Anna, who glared at me and then yelled towards Tim in the bathroom, "Hey! Your wife is forcing me to work, saying I don't have morning sickness." Hearing Anna's voice, Tim rushed from the bathroom and berated me, "What are you saying, you awful woman? How can you not understand the difficulties of a pregnant woman, being a woman yourself?" Another time, I caught Anna smoking under the kitchen vent. Reacting instantly, I snatched the cigarette from her. Anna clicked her tongue, looked at me, and dramatically collapsed, yelling,
"Ouch! Please stop it! Forgive me!"
With the living room window open, neighbors gathered around hearing Anna's cries. I apologized, saying it's nothing, and sent them away while Anna gave me a faint smile. Ryan comes home every 2 weeks, and during his visits, Anna behaves incredibly meekly. She hides her devilish side only for the days Ryan is home, and once he leaves for work, her true colors show again. Watching Anna's behavior makes me wonder what Ryan saw in her. And I also question what I saw in Tim, who has now become a puppet to his daughter-in-law. Tim used to work hard with the dream of building a house in his name. He was so earnest and bright back then. It's been 30 years since our dream of building a house came true and we had children. Now, I'm the one paying off the mortgage for this house. Moreover, Tim has stopped contributing to our joint account, leaving me to cover all living expenses. Does he even realize this? Does he have the audacity to lord over me knowing all this? As I was stroking Mary on my bed, pondering these thoughts, a message arrived on my smartphone from Tim. He demanded I come to the living room immediately. Reluctantly, I placed Mary in her cage in the corner of the room and headed to the living room, half wishing he would propose a divorce. Upon arrival, I found Tim and Anna seated on the sofa, using my favorite cups and saucers for tea. They had used the teapot incorrectly, not utilizing the tea strainer, leaving the pot and their cups filled with tea leaves. Still, they seemed to be enjoying the ambience, so I said nothing.
"Let me cut to the chase,"
Tim began. I wondered if he truly understood what that meant as he glared at me, seeing my nonchalant expression.
"Listen, I want you out of this house. You don't work, and just leech off us. You're the worst. Did you know that Anna is a model? She's planning to continue working even after giving birth. She's commendable, unlike you who's not independent. I've had enough. This house is in my name, and it's my house. I'm going to live with Ryan and his wife. We'll take care of the $1,400 mortgage."
I've never bullied anyone, nor have I lived off anyone without working. Anna being a model or whatever was frankly irrelevant to me. If he truly believed I wasn't independent, he was sorely mistaken. There were many things I wanted to contest in Tim's speech, but what puzzled me the most was his mention of a $1,400 mortgage. It seemed he thought that was the cost of our house's mortgage. He must have been mistaken due to not having made payments in a while. But since he was telling me to leave, it hardly mattered at this point. I said, sure, thinking the mortgage is actually $5,400, and decided to leave the house. "Take the dog with you too." Of course. I couldn't possibly leave Mary in such a dangerous home. Tim and Anna seemed to have lost all interest in me, caught up in their own conversation. Right, if Tim is going to take over the mortgage payments, I need to give him the joint account passbook. I went back to my room, grabbed the passbook, and headed to Tim.
"This account is set up for the mortgage payments. Please take care of it."
Tim snatched the passbook from me eagerly and started checking it out with Anna, both snickering, probably just looking at the balance. Indeed, it's a significant amount I saved up as our family's savings. They're not even looking at the transaction history, which is what matters. Well, whatever. They can do as they please from now on. I went back to my room and packed my things, including Mary's stuff. It was more than I expected, but no problem. I don't intend to leave anything important behind in this house. Before leaving, I made a call to my son, Mark. I briefly explained the situation and decided to go to his place. And with that, I left the home I had lived in for 30 years. Leaving this way was honestly sad and frustrating. But at this moment, I didn't want to spend another second there. When I arrived at Mark's place by taxi, he came down to greet me. Seeing him help with the luggage, I felt proud of how much he's grown.
"Mom, you've worked hard. Take it easy today."
His kind words almost made me tear up. I took Mark's offer and rested well that day. The next evening, I received a call from Ryan. He must have finished work and gotten home.
"Mom, you're at Mark's place? I heard from him. Sorry, it's because I brought Anna over, isn't it? I'm really sorry."
I could sense Ryan deeply apologizing over the phone. Being gentle, he probably couldn't stand up to Anna. His subdued behavior whenever he came home every 2 weeks was likely to ensure he got his salary from her.
"I'm fine. But, Ryan, have you seen Anna? How was she?"
Ryan hesitated for a moment. Then, he said, "Mom, I have something I want to talk about. Can I come over now?" as if he had made up his mind. That night, Ryan, Mark, and I talked. Many things became clear. No more doubts, it's time to divorce Tim. I felt bad for Ryan, but I thought a devil-like wife had come into our lives, observing everything. Just as I suspected, Anna turned out to be truly wicked. Months passed, and her belly never grew. Since the day she came back from the hospital, her skin was tanned. Seems like she can't stay away from her friends, alcohol, and cigarettes. Using her youth and beauty, she charmed Tim easily. Tim, too, was shockingly simple in being enchanted by Anna. At some point, he just loved younger women. I understand, I'm not young anymore, and I've changed since those days. More wrinkles, more aches. Yet, I thought we'd grow old together. Just like that home. Having a fickle nature is a loss. You, who can't finish anything responsibly, are suited for endless hell. Especially with your beloved young devil by your side. Let both of you fall into hell together. It's been about 2 months since I left the house. Lately, my work's been going well. It looks like I can expect good numbers again this month. I decided to take a break, and just then, my phone rang. The screen displayed Tim. I had been expecting a call around this time, but I wished it wouldn't come on such a good day. Still, since it was important, I pressed the answer button. "Hello, what's up?" Before I could finish asking what was wrong, a shout came from the other end.
"Hey! I don't know what's going on, but I'm being pressured to pay the house mortgage. I'm supposed to be paying it monthly. Something's wrong. Did you do something?"
Just as I thought, it was about the mortgage payment. There's no way Tim could afford a $5,400 payment when he thinks it's only $1,400. He must have quickly spent all the savings I left behind.
"I haven't done anything, you know. More importantly, have you been properly depositing your salary for living expenses and repayment amounts? If you did, there wouldn't be any need for pressure to repay."
I stated the obvious. Tim, guilty as charged, didn't retort immediately. But after thinking it over, he attacked again.
"I made sure to leave money behind. I left $4,200 for 3 months, which is definitely enough for the payments. So, there's no way the repayment should be falling behind now."
Oh, brother, he still hadn't realized. I thought he would at least glance over the account details. I let out a sigh too big to count. Continuing this conversation over the phone seemed pointless.
"All right. I'll come over tonight. Ryan and Mark will join us.
Wait with Anna." When I said that, Tim reluctantly agreed. Before I knew it, Ryan and Mark were beside me. They seemed to have a rough idea of the situation. They nodded towards me. And I nodded back firmly, then we headed to Tim and Anna's place. The first to rush out was Anna.
"Ryan! Where have you been without coming back here? And quitting your job, what's that about? I got you that job through a contact, don't mess around."
She started yelling like a banshee as soon as the door opened, causing not just Ryan, but Mark and I to recoil a bit. Ryan calmed her down, and we all entered the house. I was shocked when we got to the living room. It was far dirtier than when I lived there. Clothes were scattered everywhere, leftover food was left out. Shelves were dusty, and tiny flies buzzed around. Ryan, sitting Anna down on the sofa, had a firm, husbandly demeanor unlike his usual gentle self.
"Anna, about what you said earlier. You said you asked a contact to get me the job, but I never asked for it, right? I wanted to stay at my previous job. Somehow I was made to quit and ended up at the new one without my say. I tried to do my best thinking it was what you wanted, but I always felt uneasy."
Ryan explained that he reluctantly agreed to change jobs because Anna wanted a better salary. But he realized the pay wasn't much better for the hard work. And later, it was even reduced. The company gave unsatisfactory reasons like rising fuel costs, which only increased his distrust.
Mark found out the reduced amount was going to Anna. Being from a contacts company, such things were possible. If you had just told me, I would have welcomed using it for living expenses. But Anna, you also demanded living expenses and hospital fees from me. What did you use that money for? I can't trust Anna anymore."
Ryan spoke with quiet anger but looked somewhat sad. I felt an overwhelming urge to hug Ryan right then.
"What? It's just money. Do you know how lucky a boring guy like you is to marry me? Contribute some money." "Yeah, you're so dull it's depressing to have you around. That's why I wanted you to change jobs to that company where you're away more. I thought I married a man who'd do anything I say, but you're the worst."
Anna retorted, completely unapologetic for hurting Ryan. Mark and I almost leaped forward, wishing we could slap her in Ryan's place. My fists trembled slightly.
Enough with the marital spat. My issue is more important. Holly, like I said, I had left enough for 3 months of payments.
Tim finally spoke up after being silent since we arrived. Continuing our phone conversation.
3 months, huh? Then you should have left at least $16,200.
At my words, Tim's eyes widened.
What? The mortgage is $1,400 a month, right? Anna said so. The repayment for a house mortgage is usually about $1,400.
That misinformation, it seems, was disseminated by Anna. Anna was nodding vigorously next to Tim.
Yeah. My friend even said they bought a condo with a monthly payment of $1,300 to $1,500, saying it's the same as paying rent.
I felt bad for bursting Anna's bubble, but this is a detached house where Tim was quite particular about the interior and layout, plus it's not even close to being cheap given its location away from the station. Tim had borrowed up to the limit he could afford and built this house on a 35-year mortgage.
Hey, did you even look at the bank statement? There's no way the monthly payment for this house is only $1,400.
At my words, Tim hastily pulled out the notification. Anna peeked over from the side.
What? The repayment is $5,400?
Tim turned pale and dropped the passbook. He should have double-checked when buying the house. Do people forget if they neglect payments over 30 years?
Exactly, so $4,200 doesn't even cover 1 month.
I couldn't help but smile. He mentioned leaving only $4,200, but I'll ask about the rest of the money I saved later.
Wait. I wasn't told about this. Tim said I could get this house with a $1,400 monthly payment.
Anna's words sent shivers down my spine. And surely I wasn't the only one. Ryan looked at them with an unexpectedly cold expression. What are you going to do? Can you pay? If you want to continue living in this house, you have to pay.
And just so you know, we have no intention of paying for a house we're not living in, so don't count on us.
Ryan and Mark nodded at my words. Then Tim questioned me.
Wait a minute. How have you been paying a $5,400 mortgage until now? A housewife like you couldn't possibly pay that much.
After 30 years together, Tim still didn't understand me. It's quite disappointing.
Mom's been running an e-commerce site. It's quite popular, didn't you know? Now, I'm helping her with the product photography, and my brother handles the accounting.
Yes, I've been running an e-commerce site from home for quite some time. It's been well received, and recently I started selling pet goods, inspired by Mary. Thanks to my son's help, the business is doing even better. Tim looked at me, unable to believe my earnings. Hearing all this, Anna raised her voice.
Wait, Ryan! You're supposed to be on my side, right? We're living together, aren't we? If you're earning so well, then you should pay the remaining mortgage.
Anna's remark had Tim chiming in with agreement. What an unbelievable father, pushing mortgage payments onto his son. Ryan, however, remained calm and said to Anna,
Anna, you introduced me to a job that keeps me away for long periods, right? What were you doing during the 2 weeks I was gone? Did you take care of the house, prepare meals, do anything useful?
No, you didn't.
And besides...
Ryan stopped mid-sentence and laid out several photos on the table. The photos showed Anna walking intimately with an unknown man in a busy street, including entering a hotel.
What is this? It's fabricated. You're framing me with this.
Anna grabbed the photos from the table and started tearing them up.
Sorry, but those are film photos. Can't fabricate those.
Mark, a professional photographer, prefers film cameras and doesn't use digital ones for personal commitment.
At first, I thought I mistook someone else for you in the busy street, but then I saw you again on a different day. My brother was worried, so I couldn't help but take the shot.
Anna glared at Mark as he explained. Ryan, without changing his expression, told Anna in an emotionless voice.
Anna, let's end this. We're getting a divorce.
At Ryan's words, Anna screamed.
What? Ryan, you dare dictate to me? I'm glad to be rid of a gloomy man like you.
Anna, though beautiful and stylish, was unfortunately lacking in personality and intelligence. She probably wouldn't understand even if we explained that she was at fault. It's a waste of time to convince her ourselves, so we'll have a lawyer explain it in detail. There's more we need to confront Anna about. By the way, Anna, you weren't really pregnant, were you? Anna's face contorted at the mention.
Anna, you've been here for 5 months, but your figure hasn't changed at all. And consuming alcohol and cigarettes every night is a bit much, don't you think?
Anna's face became increasingly rigid. And with a completely stiffened face, she retorted.
What? It's just a little lie, right? Why get so mad? You got to dream about having a grandchild. That must have made you a bit happy, right? I mean, I'm actually glad Ryan never had a child.
Hearing Anna say that, I nearly raised my hand in anger. Her disregard for people's feelings was infuriating. Looking at Ryan, I noticed he seemed calmer than expected. Perhaps he had sensed Anna's lie.
You said you were hospitalized and took money from Mom for that, right?
That could potentially be fraud, Mark added, to which Anna objected.
I was really hospitalized. Not for pregnancy, but for another illness.
Despite her claim, no one believed her. Especially since we had confirmed through Anna's social media that she had been on a vacation to Hawaii during the so-called hospitalization. Her tanned skin was evidence of that. She must have thought I, an older woman, wouldn't use social media. Which was amusingly naive. While we were confronting Anna, Tim sipped his tea as if he was an outsider to this mess. It was about time for Tim to face his consequences as well.
So, what are you going to do? Are you going to live in this house?
Tim, as if he had a brilliant idea, suggested to me.
I can't pay the $5,400. If you guys won't help, how about we sell the house? It could fetch millions. It's in my name, so it's my money, right? Then I'll use that money to find a new place. Sounds like a great plan, doesn't it?
I almost admired Tim for his shallow thinking. I explained to Tim in terms he could understand.
Tim, the mortgage still has 6 years left, roughly $400,000, right? Let's say this house is worth $600,000. If we sell it, we only get $200,000. Understand? And that $200,000 will be split between us in the divorce. So, you might get $100,000. But I'll be claiming money from you. So, in the end, you'll be left with very little money.
Tim seemed unsure if he grasped the explanation. Probably overwhelmed by where to start asking.
What? What's property division?
Indeed, it's a term of interest. I simply replied.
Yes, because we're divorcing.
Tim's face twitched for a moment. I figured it'd be hard for him to articulate what's next, so I decided to spell it out.
You've been introducing your model friends to your friends, right? It's trendy among young girls to go out with older men and get allowances, isn't it? You and Anna had a win-win situation. Did you know that there were mixers happening in this living room with older men and models at night?
As I spoke, both Tim and Anna paled. Clearly hitting a nerve. Yet Anna, resilient as ever, contested.
Don't make stuff up. There's no evidence of that.
I presented the evidence as requested. It was footage from a pet camera in the living room, which I had thought I turned off when I left. Somehow, it got turned on, likely by someone drunk, and to my surprise, sent me footage of Tim and his older friends partying with young women in our living room.
This footage is from the pet camera for Mary. I thought I turned it off when I left. Someone must have accidentally turned it on. I was shocked to suddenly receive such footage.
The camera, intended to check on Mary via smartphone, inadvertently provided proof of the misconduct.
Oh, Dad. By the way, I caught you and a young girl entering a hotel in the entertainment district on camera. I really didn't want to take such photos of you.
With all evidence laid out, Tim and Anna had nothing to counter. They sank deeper into the sofa, their gaze distant as if attending their own funeral. The living room, meant for family gatherings, now resembled a wake. I wondered what the house, built 30 years ago with so much hope, thought of its crumbling family now. In the silence, the creaking of the house could be heard. It was clear Tim couldn't pay off the mortgage. Maybe he wanted to see what decision he would make in the end. Tim proposed selling the house. Showing his attachment was only superficial. Perhaps he had lost interest in the house and the family when he stopped contributing financially. Maybe I should have divorced him sooner. Now, it's unclear.
Oh, there's a scratch on the wall. I'll fix it later.
The house became mine after I paid off the remaining mortgage in full and changed the deed into my name, transforming it from Tim's house into mine. I have always taken great pride in the deep affection I've poured into this home, so the option to sell it was simply unthinkable for me. Tim seemed to want to sell the house until the very end, to keep a bit of money in hand, but I firmly refused. After all, he had been quite reckless with his spending. It was time he learned a bit about saving. The savings we had as shared property apparently vanished into expenses for his young female companions. I heard through the grapevine that he's now living in a small place. Currently, the house has undergone slight renovations to serve as both my office and home. Ryan and Mark are also living here with me, helping with my work. They've become indispensable ACE staff rather than just helpers.
Mom, could you check this?
Ryan has taken over accounting, leveraging his certifications. Anna and Ryan officially divorced through a lawyer. Ryan ignored her nonsense till the very end. There could have been legal implications for lying about being pregnant and taking money from me. But since her parents repaid the amount I gave, I didn't pursue charges. Kind Ryan regretted not being able to give me grandchildren.
Let's take a break, Ryan, Mark.
We sat on the lawn in the garden, enjoying the nice weather. We used to sunbathe in the garden when the boys were little. I'm the happiest right now, I blurted out, and the boys laughed together. We planted a small sapling in the garden, symbolizing a new beginning and wishing for future happiness. Mary chased around the sapling with interest. I wonder what the boys, and Mary will be like when this sapling grows big. I stopped pondering and decided not to think about it because I feel happy now. My sons waved at me from the balcony window, and Mary looked at their faces and barked cutely. It's another beautiful day today. I am happy now. Could you move? You're in the way there.
Hey, wait a sec.
As she said that, my stepdaughter, squatting down, kicked me with her foot while I was cleaning the hallway. I lost my balance and ended up sitting down hard. This kind of thing was a daily occurrence, always happening when my husband, Simon, wasn't around, as if she was targeting those moments to harass me. Hey!
Why did you even marry Dad? What?
You're after his money, aren't you? He makes a good amount, after all.
That's not true at all.
It really wasn't. I didn't even know what Simon did for a living or how much he earned until right before we got married. Well, whatever. You'll be leaving here soon anyway.
What are you thinking?
If you want to know, how about you beg me?
That's not happening.
Are you sure? It'll be worse for you if Dad finds out. I couldn't cause trouble for Simon. I had left my pride behind when I divorced my previous husband.
Tell me, please.
You actually did it. That's seriously messed up.
It was a lie.
Of course it was. Are you dumb? I didn't say you could stop, though. Then, she tried to hold me down. Old ladies like you should just crawl around. I heard the door open, and Simon came back home. No way. He's back? It'll be much worse for you if you tell Dad. I couldn't say such a thing. What's going on here? Just noticed some trash on the floor. You're home early today, aren't you? Yeah, I am. Actually, I've got another business trip coming up. It'll be for a week. When does it start? It's still a bit away. I felt a chilling gaze from behind and got goosebumps. Though there was still some time before Simon's business trip, I ended up breaking my leg at the worst possible timing. Somehow, I managed to be discharged from the hospital, but that's when the real hell began. And Simon left for his business trip. Michelle had been eagerly waiting for this moment.
I'm going on a trip, so give me some money. What? There's no way.
Don't lie to me.
I know about it.
Saying that, she started rummaging through the third drawer of the dresser.
See? I knew it. I'll be taking this as my travel funds, then.
What Michelle had found was the $20,000 I had saved up for emergencies.
Wait!
Though I had been discharged, I still needed crutches to walk. As I tried to stand and chase after Michelle, she grabbed my crutches and broke them in half against the wall.
How could you do this?
I don't need fakes like you.
Just try not to die.
And so, I was left alone in the second-floor room. Michelle went on her trip, leaving me all alone. There was no longer any need to hold back. A devil whispered inside me. Seek revenge. 7 days later, Michelle came home and, sensing something was off, rushed upstairs in a panic. And so began my revenge. I'm Sally, and I'll be turning 45 this year. I live with my husband, Simon, and his daughter, Michelle. I had thought we would lead a happy life together when we first got married. Surely everyone thinks that at first. Now, I find myself reminiscing more and more about the time when I first met Simon. How did it come to this? Simon and I got married a year ago, but we were originally just shop owners and customers. I had just divorced and honestly had almost no will to live. At that time, I was managing a small cafe that I had started with my previous husband by myself.
You will be fine.
Thanks. Simon was a regular customer who often visited the cafe.
I've been through a divorce too, you know.
Really?
But I thought you said things were looking like they might work out. I never thought that would happen, especially not cheating. And to think, she seemed so kind.
I vaguely remember her face from the times he came to the shop with her.
And with 2 people at that. I almost passed out right there.
That's, well, shocking. We ended up sharing our feelings, comforting each other. Somehow, we clicked, and we started meeting outside of the shop as well. It began with just meals, but soon we were taking trips on weekends.
By the way, you had a daughter, right? Is she okay? She's in high school now, so she's fine. But still, a girl, you know. Right. Sally didn't have kids, after all. Yeah, that's right.
We thought it impolite to probe too deeply into each other's family matters, so we never brought it up. Though we never officially confessed, after nearly a year together, it felt like we were dating. Not that I was too hung up on definitions. Then, there was this moment.
You know. Yeah? We seem to share a lot of the same values and thoughts. I guess so. That's why I think we're a good match. I think so too. So, we should probably spend more time together. Wait, what are you trying to say?
Will you marry me?
Marry.
Is that a no?
It's not that, but...
I couldn't give an immediate answer. I just couldn't shake off my ex-husband. My divorce was due to psychological abuse. And when he felt like he could be accused, he vanished, leaving only the divorce papers behind. Of course, I don't believe Simon would ever do something like that. I want to be with Sally, always. I'm comfortable with you. And I'm not asking for anything. Simon kept insisting on how much I meant to him. I've never been approached like this before.
Are you okay?
Sorry, got a bit too excited. Seeing him like that. I couldn't help but find it endearing.
About your proposal, if you're okay with me. Really? That's great.
But my worries weren't over yet. I had yet to meet Simon's daughter. That chance came soon enough. Let me introduce you. This is my daughter, Michelle. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. I'm Sally. So, Dad's decided to marry Sally. That's right. Congratulations. Thanks. Looks like we'll have to move then. The engagement went over smoothly. Then came the moving preparations.
I've never asked before, but what does Simon do?
Now that you mention it, I haven't told you. He works as an interpreter. An interpreter? I would have never guessed. Right? Simon is fluent in 5 languages.
But he might have to travel for work, which could be inconvenient. That's okay.
Appreciate it. The move went smoothly, and our life as a family of 3 began. Michelle, initially quiet, gradually opened up. Sally. Oh, no.
Mom? You don't have to call me that if it feels forced. Just use whatever's comfortable for you.
Thanks.
So, I was wondering why you decided to get married. Well, maybe because I was passionately talking into wanting to get married for hours?
Really? Dad did that? From what I've heard, Simon seemed to be a serious guy who didn't joke much at home. But the Simon I've seen is quite the opposite, full of humor. Our relationship continued to deepen, and Michelle went off to college. But then, Michelle started acting strangely.
Michelle, about Dad's upcoming business trip.
She used to respond normally, but now.
Sorry, but can you not talk to me right now? What's wrong? You weren't like this before.
Huh? Are you seriously clueless? It didn't take long to see Michelle's true colors. Well, I'm off on my business trip. I'll be back the day after tomorrow.
Got it. Take care.
Okay, I'm off. It was the first time Michelle and I would be alone together. Ever since her sudden change of attitude a while ago, I've found it a bit difficult to interact with her. Maybe she's having a tough time adjusting to college. I couldn't tell. But Michelle made the first move. Hey, can you not get too cocky?
I'm not trying to.
Huh?
Just look at how Dad acts.
He's always talking about you.
That doesn't mean I'm getting cocky. Your smugness is irritating.
What are you trying to do, cozy up to Dad?
What are you talking about?
The complaints continued. Listening to Michelle, one thing became clear. She really loves her dad.
Are you jealous by any chance?
A moment of silence followed. Huh? Why would I be jealous of you?
I'm not a child anymore.
At the time, I didn't think much of it. I would regret saying that later on. Michelle locked herself in her room and wouldn't come out. Even knocking got no response. Then, the next day. I'm going out with friends, give me some money.
Money? Don't you get an allowance from Dad?
That's not enough.
Then, we can talk about it when he gets back.
Michelle, scratching her head, slammed her hand on the desk. Didn't you listen?
I said I'm going out with friends.
Just give it to me. Realizing she wouldn't give up, I decided to give her the money.
Is this enough? Only $100? The shop's doing well, right?
Give me more.
That's all you're getting. I could tell Dad, you know?
With a face like she'd swallowed a bug, Michelle left. I couldn't help but sigh. Why did it come to this? When Simon returned from his trip, Michelle acted as if nothing had happened.
How were the 2 of you? It was your first time alone, right?
Before I could answer, Michelle cut in. We were fine.
Got along well, right, Mom?
She beamed at me. Yeah, that's right.
Good. I was a bit worried, but it seems I didn't need to be.
Exactly. Dad worries too much.
Oh, right. I got a souvenir for Sally. A souvenir?
Yes.
Here.
The souvenir was the aromatherapy oil I had mentioned wanting before. Thank you. But wasn't this a limited edition?
Just happened to find it.
I felt Michelle's glaring eyes on me then. Maybe her insides were boiling.
Isn't there something for Michelle?
Right. Almost forgot. Here, Michelle, this is for you. It was obviously a much larger bag than mine. She lit up with excitement.
Thank you, Dad.
But when she saw what was inside, Michelle's excitement faded.
I remembered you saying you liked it before, so I chose it.
Thanks. I'm happy. Despite her words, her face was strained.
I'm tired now. I'm going to bed. Okay, good night.
Once Simon was in the bedroom, Michelle threw her gift on the floor.
What are you doing? Why do you get something expensive and I get this childish stuffed animal?
Michelle had received a stuffed animal of a character popular among the younger generation as her souvenir.
Let's trade. Huh? Just give it to me. Stop it!
Michelle tried to forcibly take the bottle of aromatherapy oil from me.
Dad will wake up, you know?
Then give it to me quickly. After a struggle, I couldn't match the strength of a teenager. The bottle slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor.
It's your fault for not giving it to me sooner.
Blaming me entirely, Michelle returned to her room. I gathered the pieces of the broken bottle. Luckily, a little bit of oil was left, which I carefully put back into the box. The smell of lavender spread throughout the living room. This wasn't how I wanted to experience it. I kept scrubbing the floor over and over. The next morning, Simon noticed the smell too.
Did you use it already? Yeah, but maybe I used a bit too much.
No, it's fine. I love this scent anyway. Then Michelle came into the living room. Good morning, Michelle. Smells good, doesn't it?
Yeah. Got classes today?
Yeah, I do.
Are they fun?
Kind of. She looked grumpy when she woke up, but her mood improved as she talked with Simon. Before we knew it, it was time to head to the shop.
I'll be leaving soon. All right. Is it that time already? Then I'll come with you. Just give me a minute.
Because our conversation was interrupted, Michelle started to get irritated. Her irritation was clearly directed at me. Even without seeing her face. Sorry for the wait. Shall we go then?
Yeah. Don't be late, Michelle.
Once we arrived at the shop, we immediately started preparing. Thankfully, we had a full house of customers again today. All thanks to Simon's various pieces of advice and even financial support, despite my objections. He insisted it was for my sake too. While closing the shop at 7 p.m., an unexpected person showed up. Long time no see, Sally. I turned around at the familiar voice.
Why are you here?
Why? This place is mine too, isn't it?
It's mine now. Leave.
I've changed. So, let's start over.
I've remarried. I can't be with you. Even if I wasn't married, I wouldn't want to be with you.
Realizing this could go badly, I tried to push past my ex-husband to get outside. But he grabbed my arm and pulled me back. I can't forget you. He started to lick my neck, giving me goosebumps all over. Then, I heard the sound of a camera shutter from somewhere. I couldn't see who it was, but they ran off immediately after. With that distraction, I managed to push him away and escape.
Don't ever come here again. I'll call the cops.
All right, he said as he left. My heart was still racing. I never thought he would show up here. I quickly closed the shop and went home. I'm home. No reply. Simon had said he'd be late, too. Maybe Michelle hadn't returned from school yet. I sat down to think about how to deal with my ex showing up at the shop. While I was lost in thought, someone entered the living room. It was Michelle. With a somewhat smug look. Michelle.
To think you'd do something like that behind Dad's back.
What are you talking about? It's too late to hide it now. Michelle showed me her phone's screen. It was from when my ex-husband confronted me at the shop.
So, it was you who took that photo. That's solid evidence of cheating, isn't it? If I show this to Dad, you're finished. You're misunderstanding something. Excuses now? It's not an excuse. The person in this photo isn't a lover.
Then who is it? Tell me.
That man is. Your voices were loud enough to hear outside. What's going on?
Just then, Simon came back home. Listen to this.
This tramp was cheating at the shop. Cheating?
Look at this. She showed Simon the photo. See, just like I said.
This is...
Simon was taken aback, as Michelle struggled to suppress her laughter. But then...
Did everything turn out okay?
Yes.
Nothing else happened?
No.
He ran off when I said I'd call the cops. I see. What are you guys talking about? Michelle, did you really think this photo was evidence of cheating? Well, anyone would think that if they saw this. This man, isn't he your ex-husband?
Simon asked, even though he had never shown her a photo of my ex-husband before. Exactly. He wanted to get back together with me.
We need to come up with a plan then.
She could be lying, you know.
Enough. If that's what you want to believe, then fine. Time will tell.
Later on, they went to the police, and the shop started to be watched more closely. Michelle's photo proved to be useful. It was also discovered that my ex-husband was already wanted for fraud. Since this incident, Michelle became much quieter and started to treat me kindly. Like when Simon and I first got married.
Mom, I have a favor to ask. A favor? My friend's birthday is coming up, and I was wondering if we could use the shop to celebrate. That's fine by me.
Thanks. She had never relied on me this much before. So, I ended up trusting her words, forgetting all about the past. But that trust would lead me into an even deeper darkness. Michelle kept being kind to me. Asking about the shop and my relationship with Simon, things she would never normally inquire about. This continued daily, eventually causing me to become suspicious. And then, the day came.
I'll come by after the shop closes. Got it. Is something happening today? Remember, Michelle wanted to celebrate her friend's birthday here. Oh yeah, she did mention that. But keep it moderate. I will.
I waited for Michelle and her friends after closing the shop. 5 people arrived, including Michelle. But all the others were men. For the time being, I prepared the alcohol we bought and the party started.
Come on, Mom, have a drink with us. I'm good. I'm not much of a drinker.
I've always just sipped on a glass of alcohol, hardly ever drinking. Despite my refusal, they kept insisting, so I ended up drinking a glass of beer. It had been years since I last drank, so it hit me instantly.
Come on, it's a special day.
Drink up. I lost count of how many drinks I had after that. Next thing I knew, I was sitting on the sofa. Michelle was saying something, but I couldn't make it out. Then, I felt like I was being undressed. My vision gradually cleared.
What are you doing?
Indeed, they were trying to take off my clothes. Now they were attempting to remove my skirt too. I tried to escape, but I was held down and couldn't move.
Michelle! Stop them right now.
Why?
Was everything a lie?
Obviously.
By the way, these guys are interested in someone like you. I posted online and they showed up right away. What about friends? That was a lie too. I don't even know their names.
I tried desperately to move, but they were too strong, and I couldn't do anything. Finally, my skirt was removed, and I was left in my underwear. Look here. I'm going to record this.
Do you think this is okay?
Oh right. Can't have sound, or it'll be too obvious. I'll have to delete that later.
What's the purpose of doing this?
To show Dad. To get a divorce. You're not needed here. You're annoying, so maybe I should gag you too.
Just stop it.
Really, you're so annoying. Just do whatever you want with her. In the end, I was stripped naked and violated by the men. I don't remember anything after that. When I realized, the shop was empty, and I just felt nauseous. I quickly got dressed and went home.
You're late.
Where's Michelle?
She's already back.
I see. I showered, trying to wash off the men's touch. I couldn't tell anyone about this. But this was exactly what Michelle wanted. After that, I had no choice but to accept whatever Michelle did to me. You're in the way there. Can you move?
Wait a second.
As I said that, Michelle kicked me while I was squatting down, cleaning the corridor. I lost my balance and fell. Hey!
Why did you marry Dad? Huh? It's for the money, right?
He earns a lot, after all.
That's not true.
Of course, it's not. I didn't even know about my husband's job or income until just before we got married.
Well, it doesn't matter.
You'll be leaving here soon anyway.
What are you planning?
If you want to know, why don't you beg me?
That's impossible.
Really?
I think it'd be worse for you if Dad found out.
I can't trouble Simon. And now, I'm at Michelle's mercy.
Please, tell me.
You actually did it. This is seriously messed up.
Was that a lie?
Obviously. Are you stupid? And I didn't say you could stop. Then, she tried to pin me down.
An old lady like you should just grovel on the floor.
I heard the front door open, and Simon came back. No way. He's back?
If you tell Dad, things will get much worse.
I couldn't possibly say that.
What are you doing there?
Just some trash on the floor. You're back early today, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got another business trip coming up. A week this time.
When does it start?
Not for a while yet.
I felt a chilling gaze from behind and goosebumps formed on my skin. Then, I ended up breaking my bones. It was all Michelle's doing. I was pushed from behind while going down the stairs at home. I tumbled to the bottom, and when I looked up, Michelle was laughing like she was possessed.
I'll call an ambulance for you. But say you fell yourself, okay?
After being taken to the hospital, I needed surgery. My left leg was fixed with bolts, and my right ankle was broken, leaving me unable to walk.
Are you okay? Don't push yourself.
Thank you.
I heard you fell down the stairs.
Well. Michelle was looking at us from behind Simon. Yeah, that's what happened. So silly of me.
For now, just focus on getting better.
Michelle occasionally came to visit me under the guise of checking in, but it wasn't out of concern, she just came to laugh at me.
How are you feeling?
Average, I guess. Just take it easy.
Though, I guess you can't do much since you can't walk.
I had recovered enough to walk with crutches. But even after being discharged, I couldn't feel at ease. Before I knew it, the day Simon had to leave for a business trip arrived. I'm sorry to leave you like this, especially now.
It's work, so it can't be helped. Michelle, you take good care of her, okay?
Yeah, leave it to me. Simon left for his trip. Michelle had been eagerly waiting for this moment. As soon as Simon left, she came to me.
I'm going on a trip, so give me some money. What? There's no way.
Don't lie.
I know you have it.
She then started rummaging through the third drawer of the dresser.
See? I knew it. I'll be taking this as my travel fund.
What Michelle had found was the $20,000 I had saved for emergencies.
Wait. How did you know about that?
I'm not going to tell you.
Did you sneak in here?
Maybe. Her expression made it clear it was true. She hadn't taken it before, perhaps wanting to see the despair on my face as she took it right in front of me. I tried to stand up and chase after Michelle. Just die already. She grabbed my crutches, smashing them against the wall until they broke in half.
How could you do this?
People like you, a fake mother, are not needed. Just try not to die, okay? And so, I was left alone in the upstairs room. Michelle went on her trip, leaving me by myself. It was clear now, I didn't need to endure any longer. A voice within me whispered, "Seek revenge." It was difficult without crutches, but not impossible to stand. I thought of contacting Simon, But my smartphone had been taken by Michelle, leaving me no way to reach out. But I couldn't just give up. Somehow, I made it down to the first floor, used an umbrella as a makeshift cane, and went to the neighbors for help. I borrowed their phone and called Simon.
What? Are you serious?
It might be hard to believe.
I'm coming home right away. Just hang in there a little longer.
Simon returned as soon as he could.
What happened?
I recounted everything Michelle had done to me since we got married, as far as I could remember. Finally, I mustered the courage to tell him about the incident at the shop. Simon was trembling either from anger or shock.
I can't forgive this, not even if she's my daughter.
Will you help me?
Huh?
If your anger is real, I need your help to get back at her.
Okay. What do you need me to do?
Well, about that. We prepared and waited for Michelle's return. 7 days later, an oblivious Michelle came home cheerfully.
I'm home. No one's answering? I wonder how she's doing. Maybe she really died.
Then, as she tried to go upstairs, she noticed something was off.
What? The smell, it's like something's rotting.
Michelle opened the bedroom door. And then she let out a scream that echoed throughout the house. Simon quietly approached the bedroom. Peeking in, he saw something resembling a person lying on the bed.
What should we do? Should we dispose of it somewhere? But it might be found immediately.
Hearing that, Simon burst into the room.
What are you doing? Dad? Why are you here? I thought you were on a business trip. I got a call saying Michelle was up to no good. But...
Michelle turned her eyes to the bed. She must have thought I was actually dead. I'm right here.
Why are you alive? Then, what's this?
Oh, that?
Simon and I prepared it. But I never thought you'd try to dispose of it.
How rotten can you get? We had found a love doll that looked like a person while searching for something convincing. It was expensive, but we couldn't worry about the cost.
So, you haven't learned independence at your age, huh? Then I'll dismantle that.
Go ahead. Michelle pulled out her smartphone and showed Simon the video in question. However, Simon showed no reaction.
What's this supposed to mean? Come on, this is clearly over the line, isn't it? This proves how dangerous she is. That's why you should divorce her. The only dangerous person here is you. I know everything. How? Did she tell you herself?
Yes, and you know what?
The shop is fully equipped with security cameras.
Everything was recorded. Even the things you ordered.
No way!
At this point, Michelle had no way out.
Just so you know, what you did is a crime. And so is what those men did. You've done something foolish. I wish I could punish you with my own hands.
Seeing Simon's face, Michelle seemed to lose all strength and just sat down.
The police have already been informed. You might even get arrested. Give up. You're no daughter or anything to me anymore.
You've gone too far. Soon after, the police were notified. A patrol car came to take her in for questioning. She looked as if her soul had left her body.
Are you okay? I'm fine. But Simon, I'm ready for whatever comes.
The police said that the men who attacked me were also arrested. They all claimed they were instigated by a woman. The exchanges on Michelle's smartphone were the conclusive evidence. Later, Michelle was charged as an instigator.
This was the right thing, wasn't it? Of course. Sally, you did nothing wrong. Yeah.
Simon hugged me gently. There was no comfort like it. Later, we decided to visit Michelle. She looked emaciated, almost like a different person.
Dad.
You came.
I came to see if you've really learned your lesson.
Of course, I have.
I doubt that. Why are you even here? It's all your fault, isn't it?
Simon sighed deeply.
Just like Sally said, you haven't learned a thing. No, that's not true. I really have. Believe me.
You're an adult now.
You'll have to live with your actions and their consequences.
Goodbye. Simon left first. Now you see.
If only you hadn't done what you did. Or maybe if you'd been more independent, this wouldn't have happened. What are you talking about?
You've been abandoned. So good luck.
Wait! Come back here!
When was the last time I felt this relieved? But the scars I've received will last a lifetime. Still, Simon is by my side. And that's all I need.